Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Joseph Juba.
Yeah.
Welcome, sir. Elise Bavis.
Hey.
Bavis, no one's sure. And then we have Dan Tack.
All right.
Here we go.
Ask her. You gotta ask her.
I did a long time ago.
You know it.
And forgot. That's right. Welcome back, Elise. How long has it been? What was the last episode you were on?
It's a good question. It's been a month or so. I think.
Maybe more.
Maybe more. Yeah,
Gosh,
it's been a
I can't
while
remember
since the
either.
last podcast.
Probably Uncharted 4 Game Club or something.
No,
And Jojuba,
definitely E3 at least.
Yeah, Jojuba, you never leave. And Dan Tack, it feels like you're always here. Thanks to the YouTube commenters.
Yeah, hey, they're awesome, by the way.
God bless each and every one. So we have a hell of a show. It's going to be a lot of swaps. We're covering a lot of ground in today's show. Boy, some great questions in the middle. But to kick things off, we're talking about Tacoma. Then Mario versus Rabbids, the Switch game coming up, and Reeves is going to talk all about his time playing that. Then Slime Rancher. Joe, you're going to talk about that. I'm excited. Do it. Reiner's going to weigh in on Fortnite. I know we talked about it a little while ago, but we'll talk about something new there. Dan, you're going to talk about Kingsway, whether you like it or not.
Okay.
And then we might get Kyle in here for a hot minute, and then those great community emails. And then back half of the show, it's an interview with an interesting figure. His name's Brett Douville. Not a household name, but by God, he will be after this interview. So he was a lead programmer back at LucasArts, working on like Jedi Starfighter and then Republic Commando. Then he was a lead programmer at Bethesda, working on games like Fallout 3, Skyrim, Fallout 4, and then transitioned and worked on Tacoma, which is out this week, which we're going to talk all about. And now, who knows? Now he's going to keep working on smaller projects.
Gotta keep rolling.
There we go. He's seen a lot of the industry, so he has some good stories about George Lucas's suggestions for Republic Commando, which I will live the rest of my life always eager to hear a story about George Lucas offering suggestions on video games. It's like my favorite thing. Joe?
There are some creepy stories about that. Or not creepy. One that's a little creepy and others that are just strange.
Well, Reiner wrote about that one with Darth Icky and all that stuff. Yeah.
So when you say he was at LucasArts, you mentioned Republic Commando. What era, what kind of games did he work on there?
It was Starfighter, Jedi Starfighter, Republic Commando. Then he also did a little bit of work on Galaxies and stuff like that. So kind of that time frame. He talks about working on Skyrim, what Todd Howard's like to work with, stuff like that. He talks about recently fans have been trying to piece together what this Civil War code is within Skyrim. So he talks about what that was all about, why they decided to emphasize basically dragons more than the concept of Skyrim erupting into this massive civil war at a certain point. And he also does a game club, which I think we mentioned on this podcast before, with Tim Longo, who was the original creative director for the Tomb Raider reboot, directed Republic Commando, and then it was the director of Halo 5. But him and Tim Longo break down an absurd amount of games. So if you miss Game Club from Game Informer, which it'll come back at some point, you can check out Dev Game Club. So we talk about that podcast and what he's learned from it and stuff. So anyways, stay tuned for that interview. It's a good time. But for now, Tacoma from Fulbright.
Yeah, I give it an 8.25.
There we go. Tacoma from Fulbright, everybody.
I think we're all pretty on the same page that we like it.
Interesting. No.
Okay.
I had I'd say I'm not on the like side, but I'm not on the man, it's terrible, don't play it. But we'll talk about this later. I wanted to let you say the cool stuff first, but
well, I think before we even get to the cool stuff, I am going to be strict on a no spoiler policy.
Oh, absolutely.
That is all this game is, and so let's
we'll
very much err on the side
very
of
careful
nothing.
With that.
Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
But yeah, basically, this is Fulbright's next game. The makers have gone home.
Yeah.
So it's probably the most different thing they could have done thematically anyway. I mean, you're still exploring a kind of abandoned space, but yeah, it takes place in space this time. You are going to retrieve an AI there, and you're basically uncovering this mystery of what happened to this space crew that went missing.
For the first time, it's an abandoned space station. Have a reminder on that, ladies and gentlemen. But much like Gone Home, the core of the game is reading a lot and learning a bit about these people's personalities through reading and listening to them this time around.
So there's
augmented reality.
That's right.
One thing I thought was really interesting was, so you mentioned before, it's an abandoned space station. What could have happened? And it's one of the things that I actually found kind of interesting about this is that when we first went to go see this game for the cover story like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Kim and Wade and I went, and that was kind of the story hook at the time. Was like, okay, you're here on this station, you don't know what happened to the crew, and like there's a mystery to figure out there. And I think this adheres to no spoilers because this is like the opening minutes of the game.
Sure.
You are approaching Space Station Tacoma, and you're told right off the bat, like, all right, you're approaching Space Station Tacoma. What's happened to the crew? They've been evacuated. They're not here. Okay, go.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that if you think this is the kind of game, and that's not to say that there aren't other things to figure out and piece together and stuff, but like if you think that the hook of this game is you show up on an abandoned space station, what happened to the crew? It's your job to find. You know the end result. You do.
I don't feel like you totally do that.
Yeah, I don't feel like you do either. And this is tough to talk about without spoilers. I feel like you're told something, but that you have a.
It's more complicated than you think.
The narrator is not trustworthy necessarily.
There's an element of doubt. There's an element of doubt to it for sure. But like, I feel like the game does not dangle this in front of you as this big mystery of like, what happened to the crew?
It's more just blurring the personality of the crew.
Yeah, it is. It is less about that and more about like the relationships between them and how they face this like impending doom.
Yeah.
Which I think is well done for the most part.
Yeah. What was the most interesting part of the game for you, Elise?
I really enjoyed the medic character, Sarah.
Oh,
I think
sure.
she was probably my favorite. Well, her and Nat were two of my favfavorites. But
she gets a lot of AR screen time.
Yeah, I really liked Sarah and like her conversations with Odin, the station AI guy. Just because like it's just really interesting to see like how self-aware is he, and like talking about like, oh, I've never met any other AIs before, and
yeah,
trying to
touch into the nature of AI a little bit.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most novel thing about this game is how you're interacting with the crew. So it's a bizarre system where it memorized where these characters were, they're being traced and whatnot, and is projecting a hologram, so they all look like
blobs,
like the early iPhone, iPod commercial silhouettes.
All like brightly colored silhouettes.
Which is super smart to give everybody their distinct color, and they also have like a logo of their job on their back.
I'm the engineer. I'm the medic.
It would have been so easy to make this just a mush of people, but it's so nice and distinct to be like, okay, the orange lady, I remember how this goes.
No, for sure. And I think, honestly, the most unique thing about Tacoma isn't necessarily where it's taking place or its story. It's how it tells its story.
Yes.
Like, the fact that you have that timer at the bottom of the screen that you can rewind and pause and, like, fast-forward simulations, follow different holograms to different parts of the ship is, like, very amazing and fascinating.
And it's one of those things like, oh, this is such a good idea. I don't know what other game setting would allow for an idea this efficient for storytelling. And it is, so it's like, within the space station, there's pockets where you can rewind and fast forward through this little sequence to see where everybody is. And then largely the game is just an immersive experience, like an immersive theater experience,
That's
I should say, right?
exactly what it is. It's like interactive theater. You're like a fly on the wall while all these different things are happening. And, like say there's a group talking and then one of them goes off and has a panic attack or something. You can go and see that unfold.
I made Elise take the reference out of a first draft of her review, but she mentioned Sleep No More.
Yeah.
Yes, which is like a Macbeth, take on Macbeth interactive theater performance.
Yeah. We talked about immersive theater, I think, in actually the first episode of the rebooted podcast. Tim and I did quite a bit because I had some in Minneapolis, and Cork and I fell in love. We saw Drown Man from the Sleep No More producers.
Punch Drunk, right?
Yes, exactly. And there's even a Sleep No More reference in one of the emails within Tacoma, so it's very obvious that they're tipping their cap. It's like, we know what this is.
Oh, they do.
Which, it's an awesome idea. Do you feel like then it boils down too much into, I'm just going to sit here and listen to these people talk? It feels almost like a less active investigation than Gone Home in some ways.
I don't know. I mean, you're still moving around and inhabiting the space, right?
Yeah.
While you follow those different holograms and stuff. I guess it would have been nice, like, to have more interactivity with some things. Like, I liked how there were some locked compartments and stuff where you'd have to go and find the keys and stuff. And there's, fun little things like playing basketball and the pool stuff. I think I would have liked to have more of that, maybe. Yeah. I did like those little tidbits, and the attention to detail is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly moments of a lot of the game was, oh, this is a really brilliant way to convey the story, and then the other part of it is, it kind of just feels like I'm just sitting here listening to this play going on.
Standing around for the most part and just watching something unfold around you. But I don't know. I appreciated it. I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah, and this is something I want to talk about real quick, like because I think I'm thinking about like why didn't I like this game as much as I liked. You know, this genre I normally don't like at all anyway, right? But
don't say the name of the genre. Joe's
I'm not going to. I don't want to get into that conversation. Games like this, okay?
Gone Home likes.
So I really liked Edith Finch, right?
Yeah.
I started wondering, like, you know, what did that do for me that this didn't? And it was, I guess, just sort of how it interacts with you. I felt like such more of a passive player here. Even trying to get into the lurks, I really liked how you could rewind stuff, and that was like one of the only things I liked. But like, really pulling those threads, but at the same time, I felt like because it's on rails, right? You are stuck. You have to go to this place, then that place. There's really no way to break that. On rails is a little bit of a stretch. I mean, really, you got to go to. It's really got to do one zone to go to another zone.
It's a pretty linear progression.
Yeah, but within the zone, I mean, it's like, okay, here's a space, explore it.
You have freedom in those zones.
Yeah, you do, but it's still A to B to C to D, right? There's like little things that you can find in each one if you pull the thread and get the codes and stuff like that.
It's shaped like a beaded necklace.
No, I think it's just like a straight line. But that's just my interpretation of it, and I just felt there was very little interactivity. Like, you could theoretically, I don't know why you do this, but you could actually, in the segments, just attach your thing and go to sleep, and you wake up and that area would be done, right?
Oh, is that right? I was still confused about what was triggering the progress.
Now, I can't say for sure, but I watched, I tested it for like 10 minutes, and the meter kept going. So I don't know if there's a hard stop on that, and you have to go look at the stories, or...
I think it's one of those games where you get as much out of it as you put into it.
For sure. I mean...
I think it's fine.
And I rushed through it. I was one of those things where I accidentally saw credits roll. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have seen this yet. I'm not fully understanding what's going on.
You had to know you were going for credits at that point.
I wasn't 100% sure. I thought there might be something. Not that the ending is abrupt out of nowhere. Like, I should have thought that. But anyways, I think it is one of those games. Lisa's right. Like, if you're going to buy this game and play it, scour it. Like, take the time to understand if you're interested in it, at least, like, every nook and cranny, really savor it, because that's the experience.
Yeah, and I think, Elise and I think it took us about 5 hours, you said?
Yeah.
I feel like I was pretty thorough.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, the Edith Finch is, like, different interactions you'd have in each thing, even though that's linear as well. But each vignette was very different, had different interaction for the player to do.
Yeah.
I felt in this case I didn't have that going on.
Right. I think Edith Finch is like really good at giving that variety, and like each sequence there felt so different from the other. Whereas this is the same mechanic through the whole game, right?
Yeah.
Which is I don't think is a bad thing, but they're different.
Yeah, I mean, there's still different things that you're investigating. I mean,
yeah.
On the silhouettes then has the interesting thing where it'll have like a little key spot, like, okay, you in this area, if you click on it, then you can maybe read their emails, read their texts. There's different things to read to some degree. It's not just purely watching these people talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's very voyeuristic, for sure. But, yeah, you can see all those conversations, and they had no privacy.
But I think that's the key, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that voyeuristic is a good word for it, but you keep saying about like investigating, and I just did not get an investigative feel.
Investigate their personalities.
Yeah, I mean, so like really, what this game is, the narrative you're exploring is who these characters are, what their relationships were, what they were doing on this station, and that's all sort of delivered to you through this mechanism of like, what were they doing in the final moment? Like, what was happening on that space station before they, whatever happened. So,
right. Were you moved by the stories, Jill?
I mean, I liked the characters. I wouldn't say that there was like.
I don't think it's one of those stories that's gonna keep you on the edge of your seat. Like, it's just it's more mundane, but like still engaging. It's slow paced, but it's engaging. It's a character driven story.
Yeah.
Go for it, Jill.
I don't feel like it's a character interaction story. To me, it's like character. And again, I enjoyed this. So I don't mean for these to like sound like complaints, but it really I think of character driven, and I feel like I did not have that sort of drive to like, oh, I really want to find out about these people. Like I like the voyeuristic element of it and like piecing all of that together.
Being a creeper is great,
but I didn't feel didn't feel like I was being propelled through this game, you know,
by the personalities.
or anything. I felt like which again, I thought that this is an interesting way to tell a story about it's like, hey, you're on the space station, wander around, piece things together, and when you're ready, you go. And that's sort of.
I mean, I was still wondering the whole time, like, okay, so what happened to them, and what was the final result? Like, I wanted that to be wrapped up personally.
Yeah, you went on the cover story years ago.
Yeah,
and you were talking in the office at least, just like you were struck by how different the game is now.
Oh yeah, super different.
Yeah, I mean, and I went back and looked at some of the videos, like, oh, that's right. There's the whole like weird vertical chamber where you're like launching yourself. It seemed much more. I don't know what the best word. A little more. Physics-based, a little more exploration-focused in that original version of the game.
The version we saw is like there were. I wouldn't call them necessarily puzzles, but it like it wasn't just you walk into a room and the narrative starts playing.
Yeah,
it was more like you had to interact with the environment in different ways to trigger those things. And there was like an anti-gravity boot that you'd jump from the floor to the ceiling and like go to a little access way. The whole premise was different too, because like. As it is right now, Tacoma is like some sort of like commercial shipping facility or something. But in the version, like when we saw the game years ago, the concept behind it was like Tacoma was sort of like a way station for tourists that were going to the moon. So the staff that was there wasn't like a commercial shipping staff. Yeah, they were just sort of like the maintenance staff of the station that was sort of keeping it running while these tourists sort of came in and out.
That's right. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, just like little things like that. I mean, I think ultimately Fulbright found a good way to focus a story and really, I mean, like Elise was saying, really make it about the characters.
Yeah.
And sort of remove some of the extraneous stuff from the edges of the story and the setting that they weren't really able to like fully explore or realize.
And I think they do a good job too of making it about the characters and making the space station feel lived in. Even if it just comes down to like handwritten notes,
Just
like, hey, head over this way for this thing.
Sex toys.
The amount of
exactly. That's what I'm hinting at. Thank you for beating around the bush there, Joe.
Especially like I thought it was really cool how when you go into like someone's personal quarters, you will see this kind of like fuzzy, very old hologram from them from like 6 months ago, and you can just. I don't know why I really like that detail of like what they do on their own and like in their daily lives, and it just
you
gives a very lived in sense.
Yeah, for sure. And you hinted at it earlier, but I think the most striking part is just that immersive theater experience again.
I think so.
But I was gonna say like that idea of like following a character and getting to see them kind of like by themselves, like. Even psyching themselves up sometimes, and then going out and interacting with other people, and like you're a creeper, and just like rewind it and play that again. Like it is interesting.
I also thought it was like everything feels kind of connected. Like people will regroup, or like they'll hear something going on in another room. Like I don't know, and then you can like like what happened in that room, and then you can go and play that out.
For sure,
very much like that a lot.
Yeah, it's not like a bunch of stories radiating out from one hub. It's a lot of like lines intersecting. And,
exactly.
I remembered what I was going to say before.
Oh, please.
And this is again more towards like the mystery or being propelled by the game. It's like, can I spoil Gone Home or just?
Yeah.
Okay, so. I just remember in Gone Home, the sinking feeling of dread I had when I was about to go into that attic.
Yeah.
And be like, I don't know what I'm going to find, but I think my sister committed suicide up there. You know, that was a very affecting moment for me in Gone Home, and like what tied that whole experience together for me. And like, I don't think Tacoma has a moment like that. And again, I don't necessarily mean to level that as some huge criticism, but for people who played Gone Home and are expecting something like that, it's a little bit more of like a voyeuristic, a little more relaxed, engage at will sort of experience.
Mundane in space.
It's a less dramatic story.
That's weird because the topics it's dealing with.
I don't know. Because it is about unraveling that mystery, right? But you are really focusing on the relationships, and you are focusing about how they deal with, their impending death and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know how to put it exactly.
Dan, how do you feel like it compares to Gone Home?
Like I said, I didn't like Gone Home either.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was so blown away by, I'd hate to bring it up again, but Edith Finch was one of the games in the genre that really caught me and said, I'm going to keep giving these games a try because I really liked that experience. This one, I don't know. Maybe I am just an emotionless, horrible person.
Oh God, I've been saying that for so long.
I know.
Finally.
But I was not connecting with any of the character stories particularly. I just thought it was, here's your personal effects. Okay, neat. What? I need a motivation, right? I need to.
So you were the AI walking through this environment.
I do think the story wraps up in a very satisfying way. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I wish we could talk about the story.
Were you moved by the end, Dan?
Not. In fact, I liked the thing that happened before the end. That was the only part of the thing where I really was like, ooh, that's something. Something's happening here. Happening.
I want a time lapse of your face, Dan, while playing this game. So imagine it was
just a blank stare.
An Easter Island head.
for 2 hours. It was basically like
a slightly raised eyebrow near the end.
I don't know. I think
I
think Tacoma's for a certain type of person.
Sure.
I think I've always liked slow stories about people, so it was engaging to me.
Yeah. 825.
825.
What didn't you like about it?
I guess, I think they could have done a bit of a better job. I think Joe brings this up about how all those threads go into the mystery.
Okay.
I think that could have been handled better. I like how it wrapped up, but it does feel a little hasty, I guess. What else? And I think I brought this up before. More interactivity, I think, would have been cool.
Pool's not enough.
Yeah. So I think those were the two major things for me. I think everything else I liked a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like they do a lot with the sort of story situations they have, like the sequences that you're able to rewind and fast forward and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't count, but there aren't a ton of those. Yeah. So again, I think they do a good job telling the story with. I think what they have, but I kind of wanted some more of those.
Right. I think I finished the game being like, I want to know more about these people and where what happens. And
yeah, that was one of the other things I noticed. There's so much stuff you can just pick up, but all of it is. I mean, not all of it. The stuff that develops the characters because they have them. Those have purpose. But there's just so much junk that you can just pick up and play with that has no meaning whatsoever.
Well, I hear you, but what's the other option there? Make it so you can't pick up anything except for the ones that have emotional.
I'm merely saying,
that you could pick up most things and examine them. I don't know.
I like seeing some of the more static items were actually way more interesting to me than the stuff that, pick up a cup of noodles and throw it at the wall, or a cup, a mug. I don't know, stuff like the food supply, gauges. Those were more compelling to me than the myriad of objects just all over the place that you could just pick up and fling around. I don't know.
We did see this in Gone Home too. Fulbright is really good at making fake products.
I kind of like that though.
But even beyond that, they're also really good at tying into real objects. Early on, they reference Amazon in some way. They're smart about making it connected enough to the real world, and it's a pretty cool setting for the year 2088, I think.
And Carnival Cruise Lines has become this interstellar space tourism powerhouse or something.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem suspending disbelief for that at all.
You felt like you were truly there, Dan.
No, I didn't feel like I was truly there. But the story, it's okay. It makes sense.
Transported Dan.
I think there are some things I could have done a bit better with the story.
Well, there we go. Tacoma Gone Home. It's all out there. I'm curious what people think about it. I'm curious what kind of splash it'll make compared to Gone Home. I think it's tough to top Gone Home.
That's just a difficult comparison to make, I think.
Yeah.
It's not going to make that same splash, but
especially
it does its own cool stuff.
You're talking about Gone Home as basically a game that
kind of changed
popularized this whole kind of experience. Yeah, so it's it's not. Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
And we're not going to.
It's funny to me.
It's so dumb if we do. There's no point to talk about that every episode.
I know, but it's just funny how we're tap dancing around saying the name of a genre. Okay, all right.
It's not the name of a genre.
I think you should write an op-ed about that.
And the name of the genre is Gone Home Experience. Then,
I call them narrative-driven experience.
Okay, all right. Little stories. Elise, thank you so much. We're going to get you back for emails if you're down for that.
Yes, absolutely.
For now, do you want to just clap once for me? Ben Reeves, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome, sir.
Hey, look at this guy. Look at me.
We have you here as our Mario Rabbids expert, which is probably something you did not know you were going to be a year ago.
3 months ago, probably.
So you played Mario plus Red Rabbids equals Kingdom Battle.
That'd be a better name. But yeah, I did. I got a chance to go out and play like you got 3 hours of the game.
Where'd you go?
To the Netherworld. Yeah, that's where I got it. Sword. Yeah, I was there. Otherwise known as San Francisco.
Oh, that's right. Fantastic.
Yeah, so I played the early section of the game, and they showed us a whole new area, which is like the third world.
Okay.
Which is fairly late into the game because there's only 4 overworlds. But this one is ghost themed. So haunted house, spooky.
Are there boos?
Yep.
Oh, are they on the overworld? And when you look away from them, will they go after you?
You know what? I did not see that, so I think they blew it there. But I did, because I asked them that exact same question there, I should say. But yeah, they do encounter, you will encounter them in battles. And they actually are not strictly enemies, they're more kind of like an environmental effect. So I'll port around an environment and like grab your dude and then teleport him to another area.
How does that
sounds aggravating. If you're trying to execute some sort of strategy.
Have you ever dealt with ghosts? They're constantly aggravating, Joe. That's the defining characteristics of a ghost.
I think it's more of a poltergeist than a ghost.
Oh, that's right.
That's good. You should email Nintendo.
Yeah.
So, Reeves, help me out. In a broad sense here, game was leaked. Everybody said, ooh! Then at E3, everybody said, oh! And now, after spending even more time with it, what's your voice saying? So that's lower than E3?
That's higher. No, I was trying to go higher.
It's continuing to climb?
I have no sense of audio. Yeah, it's still... I think people didn't know what the game was when it leaked, so they were just like, rabbits! I don't think people like rabbits to begin with, and the idea of tainting Mario with those rabbits... what do you grow up?
Go on about Mario 6.
So anyway, you want a wet nap for that? Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, so people didn't like it, the leak, but...
Hang on, Joe's right. Jesus, we're scattered. Okay, we got it. People didn't like the leak. Alright, we're good.
I think this has been hit since fall.
Yeah.
I'll say, I think we need a host. I think I'll just go out and say it. But yeah, so when the game was actually shown at E3, I think people were like, oh, actually, this doesn't look too bad, and rightly so, like, because it doesn't look too bad. Like, it's a cool XCOM.
I'm trying to figure out, are you continuing to dig into the game and you're continuing to be impressed, or it's like, oh, it's about what people think it was at E3?
Yeah, I would say it's probably about what people think it was at E3. I think some people thought it's like, well, it's Mario Rabbids, it's going to be like a dumb kid game version of XCOM, and it's easier than XCOM, but that's not hard to make an easier game that's easier than XCOM. But I will say it's more complex than I think I even anticipated it would be.
What kind of stuff?
Well, it's all very movement based too, which is a new feel for a strategy game. Because usually you find your cover, an enemy has their cover, and you just like shoot back and forth at each other. Maybe you're trying to strafe around them and throw missiles at them or something. But this game is all very movement based. So you jump off your dudes, you can run and attack an enemy. And the rabbits especially, they can like string attack enemies, so they'll like run and physically attack an enemy, maybe do 3 attacks with 3 different enemies, and then find cover, and then they still get to attack with their guns. So it's a lot of like jumping off of your friends and then jumping off of enemies, and lining up your attacks before you actually do your full-on attack with your weapons, and they all combo together. So it's like a lot of combo strategy, which I thought was pretty fun actually.
So I have a question about this, and that's like that sounds fun, but that also sounds like stuff that we sort of knew about it coming out of E3.
Yeah.
Like, can you say anything specific about what you learned with your time with the game that felt like new or surprising beyond the time that we got with it?
I mean, in terms of surprising, I don't think there's anything totally surprising because the surprising stuff happened at E3. It's like, oh, this game looks good.
Mario has a gun.
Yeah, Mario has a gun.
Forget the guns. Did you know that there are duck grenades in this game?
What are you talking about?
But that's surprising.
Is that surprising?
Oh, wait, are these grenades made of ducks or grenades engineered specifically to kill ducks?
It is
duck hunting.
One in the Reeves is going to tell you all about them. They're basically rubber ducky looking bombs. And a couple of different characters have those. Oh yeah, I mean it's not as cool as when I describe it, I bet.
Wait, but then they explode with like fiery inferno explosions?
There's like a Solid Snake one too, right? Like Solid? Oh, there's one that looks like Solid Snake. He's not like labeled
Splinter Cell.
He's not like labeled the Solid Snake duck.
He's Splinter Cell duck.
Yeah, that's what he looks like. Yeah, that's what he is. Yeah, that's what he is. I mean, maybe he's Sam Spade. That'd be a good name for him.
And he explodes?
And so it's a grenade.
Okay.
It's just a weapon that the guy.
I didn't know if it was like a flower grenade. I don't know how cutesy this game's
check
trying
this
to
out.
be.
They all have secondary weapons. So some of them get the grenades, and some of them get like these hammers you can use to smack the guys and slow them down with honey. Okay, so honey's like the slow liquid in this game. Yeah, exactly.
And there's a bunch of different effects. There's like ones that make characters bounce all over the screen. So you hit them and like it initiates a bounce effect and they like, fly off of the map and die instantly, which is actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
And there's one that turns them into stone, so they can't move. So there's a bunch of different effects for different weapons.
I'll be
damned. There's also robot you can like deploy in the battlefield. So Luigi has this little mobile turret that you can send off down into the field, and then it'll blow up when it makes contact with enemies.
Yeah, I don't know if they showed E3. Tell them about the time trial sort of thing to get the unlocks.
Yeah, they mentioned that there are a bunch of... When you're not engaged in enemy gunfire, right, there's a bunch of, like, puzzles, they called it, but at E3, all I saw was, like, you collecting a bunch of coins. This time, I actually did get to see a puzzle, so it's like one of those classic light mirror puzzles where you're reflecting light across the battlefield. But I will say, like, the puzzle was somewhat engaging. I was like, I like the puzzle. And then there's also these time trials that you'll encounter where you're trying to collect coins. And they mix it up quite a bit, so it's like trying to move this statue from one place to another to open up these doors and collect the coins before it ran out of time. It was pretty engaging. It was a nice change of pace from the strategy.
Very engaging. Side note, I am done reflecting light beams off mirrors for the rest of my life.
I saw you react to that,
Don't ever
Joe.
do that again.
Here's what we need to
Better
do.
not play another Final Fantasy game because you know it's going to have those.
I mean, are you done with like moving blocks down a screen
Yes!
like in Tetris?
Yeah.
So you've never
No.
No. I thought you meant like pushing crates and crap.
If you bash Tetris one more time on this podcast, Reese, so help me God. You know what we need to do, Joe? I ain't no features editor.
Okay.
We need to make a feature for the site that's just the Hall of Fame video game puzzles, and just come up with like, I don't know what it'll boil down to, the 8 templates of like, these are the puzzles.
You should talk to Jeff Cork because I think he's actually written that feature already.
Has he really?
Yeah. Like, I can't remember if it's like on our. He might have done it when he was like before when he was just online only or something. But he has written something about lame video game puzzles.
Oh God, because you can boil that stuff down, and really, there's only a couple of key ingredients everyone's working with.
Yeah. What would you never get tired of for puzzles, though?
Favorite puzzle? Honestly, balancing across the log. I don't know. Does that even count as a puzzle?
I think
Probably.
it's all about how it's executed. Like, of course, like moving crates across a field like gets bad rap because a lot of games have done it poorly. But if you
Just
did
because
it
you like
in a
Soul
good
Reaver
way,
and those things.
It's not a question of doing something and getting tired of it or like never getting tired of it. It's just a question of like repetition, that you see something done once and it's interesting the first time, then another game does it and another game does it, and suddenly it just becomes part of the like common gaming vocabulary that no one even analyzes. They're just like, oh, we need to do a puzzle here, let's do a rotating mirror puzzle, okay, ta-da, the end.
To answer your question, though, Reeves, I think I might be in the minority here. I like slidey puzzles, like the one where there's the one square missing.
Yeah.
You have to move stuff around, basically like the stuff that's in Wind Waker.
yeah.
If I ever run it
when you were 5, the physical puzzles.
I love those as a kid, and it's the only puzzle if I encounter in a game, I'm like, all right, here we go.
Here we go.
I know exactly what the rule set is here. I know exactly how to make this work. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
I understand why people would complain about blocks puzzles, but I would just say it's like complaining like, oh, I never want to play another one again. It's like I never want to like shoot an enemy in the face again, or like, you know. Pet my cat.
No, you're right. It's all
about how you do it.
What's the difference?
It's all a question of how you approach it and how you make it fun.
That's right.
But a lot of people
Bring back the blocks.
Reeves, you also talked to the developers. Anything stand out from talking to those wacky Frenchmen?
Yeah, I was like sweating, like looking at my watch the whole time, afraid I was going to miss my plane. But I was like, this interview, when's this going to get over? And then I went back and transcribed it. I'm like, this actually isn't a bad interview.
So with the interview, your first question was, when is this going to be over?
Like, can I go? I'm ordering an Uber now.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. But actually, the interview's up on the site now, and I think it's pretty good. It's with the producer and the director, the guy who cried.
Was he just crying the entire interview?
Yeah, but I was kicking him in the nuts. So you guys. Yeah, no, they talk about the fact that they were inspired by Mario Kart, was one of the things that I was like surprised by. Like,
We were trying to make a Mario Kart game, but we whipped hard.
just like, oh, I don't know what we did wrong.
Seems absolutely nothing
Ship
like
it.
Mario Kart.
Ubisoft keeps saying, all right, this is our new racing game, Mario plus Rabbids
Kingdom battle!
Just dance.
Wait, where are the cars? Miyamoto's very confused.
Oh, working with this IP is hard.
Well, they did talk about working with Miyamoto and like his feedback, and like he was like, just keep making it crazier. Like, show me how crazy you can get.
Show me. That's awesome.
That's what he said. That's what the guy said. He said.
Is it all just rabbits, or is Rayman in there too?
I asked him about that, and he said that Rayman's not in the game, and they see those as two very different properties at this point, even though the rabbits came out of Rayman at one point. Like, the rabbits are their own thing, and so they kind of wanted to focus on that, and they thought if they were going to do a Rayman Mario game, that'd be very different, where they wanted to have the chaos of the rabbits be kind of a thing that they injected into this game. So I'm like, all right, I'd still like to see Rayman.
Your rebuttal's all right, developer. That's one way to go.
Yeah, that's one answer.
Neat. Braves, anything else you're dying to get off your chest?
I think that covers it pretty good. I will say, if you're a strategy fan, give this game a shot. You're probably going to like it. And I will say, even if you're not a strategy fan, give it a shot, because it's different than most strategy fans.
So everyone in the world, give it a shot?
Give it a shot.
No, but basically, like, if a game like XCOM seems a little, like, intimidating for you.
Yeah, exactly. If you've been turned off by strategy games in the past, this might be one that appeals to you. It's a terrible racing game.
I'll be damned. Reeves, you want to give yourself a high five?
Yeah, I did great.
Hey, Andrew Rayner. Hey. Welcome, sir. We're going to bang out these segments. This is going to be so much fun. Okay. I hope you like rapid fire game learning. Bang away. There we go. Bang-a-rang. Joe Juba. Whoop. This is what I want from you. Okay. Reiner, you sit there politely. Slime Rancher. Yeah. It's been early access forever on Steam. Actually, not that long. Maybe over a year.
Like a year and a half.
Okay, great. Now it's out. Is it out on PS4 in addition to Xbox One?
No, it's Xbox One and PC right now.
Okay, and it's also the games with gold for Xbox.
Right, so if you're an Xbox Live subscriber, you can get it for free on Xbox One.
So, it seems like you like this game a lot.
I did. I really did.
And the easy pitch for this game would be...
So, it's hard because I'm always hesitant to do the, like, it's like this meets this, all in one.
But it's kind of a walking sim.
Well, so with the understanding that it is more than the sum of its parts, right?
Yeah.
Like, it brings together a lot of things that I really like. It brings together parts of, like, the easygoing farming, or easygoing ranching of, like, Viva Pinata. Some of the exploration parts remind me of, like, Minecraft, the sort of idea of being like, okay, I'm far from home in dangerous territory, I got an inventory full of stuff that I want to get back to my base, you know. And then there's also kind of an element of, like, routine that scratches the same itch for me that Stardew Valley did.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, if you're a sucker for progression, go for this game.
Yeah, especially, like, one of the things I think it does the best is that it always gives you interesting things to spend your money on, right? So, like, I think about, like, take a game like The Witcher 3, which when I would get skill points in The Witcher 3, I was always kind of like, an extra, like, 1.2% to critical hit. Like, my skill points would just accrue because, like, I wasn't excited to really spend them on anything.
Yeah.
Witcher 3 is a great game. I really like it. But,
sure.
That being said, every time I would get, you know, like, cross a money threshold in Slime Rancher, it would be like, God, what of these, like, 5 things do I want? Do I want to upgrade my jetpack? Do I want to build a new corral? Do I need more storage? Do I need another silo? Should I unlock this part of my ranch that I can, like, maybe get some more plots to deal with? You know, so it's just, like, all of these different options, and I was excited about all of them.
Yeah, so you're walking around, it looks kind of like Team Fortress, first person, sprinting around this environment. Reiner and I played a little bit. Dak, I don't know if you played
I have not, but I'm very intrigued based on what I'm hearing
The
now.
best part of the game is you have this vacuum cannon gun thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a power vac 10 billion. That thing
That's
can
right.
suck up stuff like you wouldn't believe.
Like you wouldn't believe.
And it's like slime. You're sucking up little slimes like from Dragon Quest, right?
Yeah.
They're like little teardrop-shaped slimes with smiley faces. And you're like...
It's very cute. I played about the same last night as I did in early access, and it hasn't changed as much as I thought since last time I checked in on the early access version. And I hit this impasse where it's like, I don't know what I should be doing here. I have 2 corrals. One of them is overflowing with pink slimes everywhere, and then it's a pain in the ass to pick up their poop, which is the currency in the game. Is there some way to filter it out so you can only suck up poop? I'm very interested in this question.
So, I guess what I'd say is, like what's changed since early access is really just sort of like they've been in early access, they've been adding areas over time and other refinements and stuff like that. So there's more than just that ranch area.
Is it always home base? Is it the hub, or are you moving your hub?
No.
Okay.
So your ranch is your home base, and this is, again, I hesitate to make the Minecraft reference too hard because it's not all about like building and stuff like that.
It's not procedurally generated, yeah.
But yeah, and it's not procedurally generated, but it does have that element of like going as far from home as you can, or digging. Well, there's no digging. Going far from home to like get valuable resources that you want to bring.
You go in caves and stuff like that.
Yeah. So there are different zones, but really, what the game, like, part of what I found really fun about it is it's got a sort of like learn by experience element to it. So it's got this like in-game encyclopedia that you can sort of reference to give you a baseline of like how you should play the game and what you should do. But for me, some of the best parts are just the stories that happen that teach you to like, oh God, I'm not doing that again, right? So it's like you have let's say you have two slimes in the same pen, and you feed them, but they're different colors. You have a pink slime and a rock slime. One's pink, one's blue.
Of course.
You feed them each a carrot, and they do their little like plort, which is what happens when you feed them. You called it poop. I don't think it's explicitly poop. It's poop! What the hell else would you call it? You feed them and a thing comes out.
Yes. I'm into this.
And it's worth your weight in gold.
So if a slime eats a different colored plort, it becomes a sort of crossbreed between the color that it ate and what it is.
That works for animals too, Dan, if you ever want to try eating like horses crap.
I'm probably not going to give it a whirl.
Okay.
So part of what makes that interesting though is like in that situation, if the pink and the blue slime plort and eat each other's plorts, then you have two crossbreeds that are basically the same kind of slime now. They're both pink blue hybrids, right? But let's say you throw a different kind in there. This is what I tried to do. Is like I threw a different kind in there and fed him. Let's say it was a yellow one. If a slime that's already been like crossbred tries to eat a third color of plort, it turns into this monster called the tar that then just like can overrun your range and turn all your slimes into monsters.
How do you kill them?
You can add water to your vacuum gun, and that kills them.
Because right now all I can do is like suck them up and then walk them someplace far away.
You need the water upgrade for your gun, and then if you just douse them with some water that you collected, it gets rid of them. But so situations like that are like oh God, I need to be a lot more careful about what slimes I put in which corrals and what they eat, because otherwise they can just like turn into this disaster. Which it's never, even if it were to wipe out every slime I owned, I probably would have like enough of a reserve of resources that it really isn't hard to go and like catch a few slimes and bring them back.
I'm still confused. So you're trying to combine these slimes, take it to the rarest slimes, so that their poop is worth a fortune. You can cash that in. Like, should I have overflowing cages and just catch as many slimes as possible?
No. So usually, for me, the parts that I found that works the best is to have. I think I keep maybe about 8 slimes in a corral usually, and then you can set up machines you can like upgrade the corrals to auto feed them and to auto collect the plort.
Oh, really? There's the secret ingredient.
So where the strategy here comes in is, let's say like each slime has a favorite food, so when they eat that, they produce double plorts.
They're going to Mexican food.
Yeah. Hey. So if you have a crossbreed slime, that's when you feed it, it automatically plorts out one of each color, right? But if you feed it its favorite food, it plorts out 2 of each color, naturally. So if you want to like maximize your profit, you find the kinds of slimes that are going to produce the most valuable plorts. You crossbreed them, and then you set up the auto feeder to feed it its favorite food, and then auto collect the plorts. So then when you come back in the ranch, you just like gather them up and sell them and make a fortune.
It's Joe's favorite type of game because numbers go up. As simple as that.
I do really like that.
It made me feel like a monster.
Why?
These things should be cuddled, given to children, not caged.
They are really cute, but then there are some that are kind of. I mean, there's a radioactive one that you can't.
You need to be caged.
Yeah, you got caged out.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt.
And that's how. So you're not actually breeding slimes and like growing new ones necessarily. The breeds that are out there exist in the world, and you're going and like capturing them, and then your input is really like reading or like deciding how if you want to crossbreed them, which plorts you want to generate, things like that.
It's weird that I know that the chronology doesn't work out this way, but I mean, there's like the slime breeding stuff within Stardew Valley, which I didn't really get into, but it's weird to like, if that's the focus of the entire game, then it's awesome. Like if that's all you have to focus on, and just go out and explore. But you talk about like it's a game where you learn through experimentation. Do you feel like it needs more guidance out of the gate? Like, it's been in early access for so long, and it's popular, and so people have built up facts, and they seem to know what they're doing. But for this wider release now, do you feel like it struggles with training?
I intentionally avoided doing a whole lot of like looking online for help. I tried to, assess it using what the game provided. And my one complaint about it, I think, is that there are a couple things that are absolutely like the core of your, like, this is how you get further in the game. And it doesn't totally communicate to you how important that is.
So money?
That's the trap that I fell into at first. It's thinking like, well, I mean, I'm making some good money, I'm getting some upgrades, I feel like I should be doing more. Like, there are these locked doors that I don't know how to get into. Like,
there's more to life than just money, like locked doors.
Well, I was just trying to figure out, like, what these... The game didn't really tell me what these doors are for, or how I open them. So what I'm going to tell people who are listening, because I wish that I had known going. I felt like I wasted some time figuring it out. And that was like, around in the world, you're going to find some large versions of slimes, like super big ones that don't move, called Gordos. And
great name.
Some of them, you basically have to feed them that slime's, like, food that slime will eat. So if it's a big blue slime, it'll eat vegetables. So you feed it 50 vegetables, and then it explodes, and will either reveal like a teleporter that gets you to other places, or it'll drop a key that you then use to unlock those slime doors. And when you unlock the slime doors, those lead to new areas with new slimes, with new slime doors, and that's how you like progress through the world.
So we should be hunting Gordos.
Yeah.
Do those big ones, can you bring them back to your camp and have them, what is it, Plort or Paul Blart?
No.
What is it?
Yeah, Paul Blart in your mouth.
Yeah, there you go. You can play it, man.
Dude, Gordo's plorting. I'm definitely going to play this.
No, they stay where they are, so you basically just feed them, they explode, you harvest what they explode, and that helps you get further.
Okay. Awesome. What a delight. What'd you give this game?
I give it an 8.5. I really liked it.
Out of the blue for you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like, I got super addicted to it.
Oh, that's
I still am. I'm still playing it.
I'm getting on board.
There we go. Speaking of trouble with the on-ramp, Fortnite from Epic Games.
Yeah.
So last time we talked about it on the podcast was
10 years ago.
Yeah, basically. Well, we did Skype them in a long time ago. Actually, they were in the office. But last time we talked about it on the podcast with JV, we talked a lot about the tutorial and building up and how it's kind of overwhelming out of the gate. So, Reiner, I'm curious, after you spent more time with it, what is, not necessarily the end game, but what does the advanced game look like? Where are the strengths? Where are the weaknesses?
Yeah, a lot of the same, I'll say.
Oh, okay.
There's not a lot of variety. It sounds like a really complex game, but there really isn't much to it when you really boil it down to the gameplay that's there.
Yeah.
So, what is it? What is Fortnite? It is a sandbox, scavenging, resource management, camp building, fort building, combat game.
Minecraft works in a style.
With co-op.
Yeah.
4-player co-op. Yeah, Tim Sweeney, I think, called it Minecraft meets that. Yeah. But so you're doing all these things. Basically, when you land in an area with your team in tow, you usually have 3 people with you, right? You land there, and the first thing you want to do is go find this device that's going to kind of tame the storm that's making these zombies, right?
Yeah.
And that means you have to scavenge over this kind of open world area, and they're fairly sizable. I don't know, it'll take some time to get across it, but you can all scatter and kind of, I don't know, see most of the map in a matter of minutes, right? But you're going into houses, stuff like that. You're looting through trash, going into toilets, doing everything you can to get resources to build stuff that you're going to need. You're going to need like wood, metal, stone for your building of the camps, but you're also going to need all sorts of different things to build bullets and weapons and all that stuff, right? As you go through this, because once the action starts, it's relentless and it goes on for a long time.
And is it fun?
Yeah. So once you find your little device, you activate it, you build a camp around it, and basically it's really easy. Basically, you just have you hit the B button on Xbox. That's what I'm playing it on. And it brings up an option to build a wall. You hit the RB button, that turns into a floor or a ceiling. So you can build it very quickly. You just throw it down and you see it just start assembling. It's very Disney Infinity-esque, Minecraft-esque, right? Like, it's just instantly there. that is going to fortify this little thing that you're trying to protect, because these zombies called husks are coming after that thing. And there's these little storm pockets that you'll see on the ground that will, lightning will shoot out, and all of a sudden there's like a swarm of them coming at you. They're slow moving. There's not a lot of variety to them, even in, 30 hours into this thing, I think now. But you should be able to manage it. And it's kind of got a horde mode kind of feeling to it, in that it's just wave after wave after wave of enemies.
And the game outside of that core gameplay, like all the menus, all the stats, all the upgrades, after 30 hours, does it feel more natural? Can you navigate it? Does it feel good?
It is the busiest HUD screen I've ever seen in a game. I mean, there's tons of stuff going on at any given time. It's a little maddening in that.
You're still not used to it.
No, and I mean, even in the menus, when you're out of the map, it's like you got your survivors to take care of, you got all these different camps of people to take care of and level up. Yeah. You're not just leveling up yourself; you're leveling up like everyone that you come across. That you open up loot crates and you'll get survivors in there, and it's like, okay, this one's purple, he's better, or I'm going to slot him in as a survivor or technician over here or something. And there's a lot of depth there, but the variety doesn't back up that depth yet, right? And they're calling this a closed beta right now, which is really misleading if you buy it at retail.
You can buy it on a store shelf, which is, we had discussions internally. We're like, well, what does that mean? How different is that from early access, where technically people could buy it? Like, is it more misleading if it's like, oh, it's just a label on a box on a shelf? Yeah. People are still going to pick it up, not knowing that it's kind of still in progress.
So I went and looked at a package in the store, and nowhere on the front does it say anything about it being early access or closed beta. And then on the back, it says early access pack, and it just lists like a bunch of items you're getting. But it doesn't say the game's like not finished yet. It's not in closed beta or whatever. I don't know what this means anymore, by the way.
Yeah.
Like this whole alpha beta stuff, like it doesn't matter anymore.
Well, now Dan's alpha.
Well, definitely. But the gaming terms for it have become increasingly useless, right? Like a beta used to actually be a beta, and now a beta is just like a stress test in most cases. And
I understand that part, but when it comes to selling betas on retail shelves, that's the new layer of, it's just game on. Nothing means anything anymore.
We're at that new frontier. We have games that are in early access for like 4 or 5 years. We have games that never come out of early access.
Richard Gary is fantastic game, Shroud of the Avatar, coming out in early access anytime soon here.
But it's going to be free to play next year when it's officially done then, right?
That's so weird.
It is.
Is it just, I'm trying to think, has Microsoft endorsed that strategy as well? Because even like Tomorrow Children from Q Games, they also got out of the gate with like, oh, this costs money, but then eventually we'll make it free to play, which is a fortune.
Is the exact same.
It's a horse strategy.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand it, but I'm down on the game. Like, as I talk about it, the gameplay especially, it feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over, going into the same areas over and over and over. And there's 4 different zones, but man, it takes time to get to that second zone. You got to go through mission after mission after mission. And some of the missions you take say, complete this zone twice. Like this 9-star zone twice. So it's like, man, that's over an hour just for that one mission, and I need to do 4 to get to the next tier in this area. It's maddening how much is there. It's cool if you want bang for your buck. I mean, there's tons of game there, and I am addicted to the loops. Of the loot, like the stuff I'm getting. Like I want the better weapons, I want the better survivors. I want to send people out on these scavenging missions.
Well, then the menus are working.
So, well, I mean, no, because it's still like, oh my god, I come here and it's not like I'm done in a matter of seconds. It's like, okay, I got a bunch of stuff I got to take care of.
So does it feel like a chore that you're grinding, or does it feel fun?
Parts of it feel like a chore. And then the gameplay itself, I just want more variety.
Right.
Whether that's in enemies, how they even attack. It'll just always, the storm will always be like right in front of me, and it's like, they could come from over here, the south, or, like all vectors.
But some of the zombies are baseball players, and they throw baseball, which is pretty cool.
They throw bombs.
You talk about color-coded rarity and survivors. Is this like a mobile gacha kind of system where you want to get the 5-star legendary guy?
Yeah, it totally feels
everything's in this game. Every system to make money is in this game in some capacity.
All right.
They have loot chests, and then they have loot pinatas, and then you hit with a shovel.
Literally,
it's going to be free to play. They're gonna milk you for it in other ways.
I just wish they milked me in a cleaner way. I wish the milk laboratory
is clean. Milk is clean.
That's right, Dan.
The last time. But if you're looking for like a 4-player co-op game that's a little different, has a lot of depth.
On Switch, preferably.
Don't play that one yet, from what I'm hearing.
So you would recommend it?
Yeah, I do. I recommend it. Again, I don't know what's going to happen next year when it goes free to play, what that's going to mean for the loot systems and how it plays and all that. But what's there is pretty satisfying. It's just very repetitive. So, I don't think this is a game you're going to want to sit down and play 12 hours each day. It's going to start all feeling the same after a while. But I've been going at it 3-4 hours a day, and that seems about right for me. And then I'm like, okay, I am feeling like this is starting to tax me a little bit. So,
Yeah, I'll be damned.
but it's cool.
I'm trying to think of what games I would play for 12 hours each day.
Overwatch, Stardew Valley,
World of Warcraft.
What else you got, Joe?
I don't know if there is. I mean, there are games that I would play for 12 hours each day for 7 days, and then I beat the game. But it's just like the eternal prospect of spending that kind of time with the game. I don't know.
Battlefield 1, Call of Duty, any of those
PlayerUnknown's
games.
Battlegrounds.
Pokemon Go, apparently, for these jackals.
Just play Final Fantasy VI again and again and again.
Yeah,
It's not a bad idea.
Nintendo Mini.
I could do that.
Hey, speaking of taxing,
Hey.
Rainer said that word a long time ago. Dan Tack, hello.
Hello. I am here.
Now you have to sing.
No.
Taxing.
You've been on this whole podcast. This is the first time you've talked to him?
No.
I don't know.
He's just being handsy.
He crapped on Elise earlier or something.
I did not.
No, it's
I'm sorry I didn't like that game.
No, that's
Jeez.
fine. No, I
better apologize.
What game?
Tacoma.
Whoa. Yeah, I'm sorry for offering that opinion. I loved it.
I love it.
No, I didn't.
No, I love that game. A couple months ago, you talked about, I forget, was at PAX, you played Kingsway.
That's right. That was my first time seeing that game.
That's right. So this is the novel game, if you recall our discussion. It is an RPG that's modeled after Windows 95
That's right.
UI.
Yeah.
And everything clever that you could possibly imagine is packed into that experimentation.
It's basically a very traditional standard RPG. You know, you level up, you get loot, you equip your guy, you try to go through. There's permadeath, so it's a roguelike. The island is generated randomly each time you play. But the big gimmick is with the windows. Managing windows. All kinds of windows everywhere. The enemy window moves around in a pattern fitting to the enemy. So
Did you play in windowed mode?
No.
Okay, thank God.
So, like, you've got a jellyfish that moves up and down. You've got enemy attacks that might go like this. And you've got to click both buttons, or icicles that fall from the ceiling, and you've got to, like, go click, click, click fast. So
Okay.
you don't hit the ground or you get hurt. Fireballs that sort of weave across, arrows, all kinds of junk like that. And it's really cool for the first, like, couple hours. But it doesn't really ever get really deep with that system. Like that, what I just said, those sort of gimmicky things are as far as it goes. Or like an enemy will hit you, and some enemies have attacks that'll like close a window, which can be very, very stressful. like I really needed my inventory there, and I got to drink that potion. That sounds fun. Your window, it is, but it only works for a certain amount of time because the game itself, once you get your feet, since it is permadeath, you'll probably spend an hour or two learning the game and figuring out how to like exploit all the different abilities. And I should equip this, and I want to do this. And this is how the system works. Once you've got the systems down, it just take you about 2 hours to complete the game. And then you're just basically chasing down different endings. But it's the same, you're going to be killing the same crap, the same bosses. Even though it's procedurally generated, it's like, okay, I know the boss of this dungeon is going to be this cultist leader. He's going to summon a skeleton every so often, and I'm going to have to manage that because they're going to get in front of his window pane, and then I can't hit him. And then they could get all over the screen. Again, this is the cool part of the game. That gimmick works. It is a very cool part of the game. But the game itself only takes you a couple hours to beat. And after that, you're just unlocking new classes and trying to find new endings.
Is there a universe, though, where it's like, hey, it's going to be one of the most novel experiences in gaming you can have this year, realistically?
I'm sure that's what they were going for. Like, it's supposed to be like a cute battle system, sort of like in the vein of Undertale, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
this is unique, this is clever. And I agree, the battle system is. The game itself just doesn't have legs to last more than 4 or 5 hours of entertainment, unless you're hardcore.
Undertale doesn't either.
I can't play that 12 hours.
Unless you're like hardcore and you want to like, there are multiple endings and you've got to do weird stuff to get them. So if you really want to dig deep, that's great. But for me, the motivation isn't there because you start up again. You're like, okay, I know what the broken abilities are. I know where to go get these cool items, and then you're killing the same. The gimmick is cool at first, but it's like, okay,
I get it. The idea of generating 2 hours of interesting content and then spreading it over 6 hours, or like that's that's a problem. It doesn't matter how like interesting and novel something is the first time. The expectation is you just like keep doing it to like get the real game.
Well, what sounds familiar? Yeah. What's the most clever thing the game does with that presentation style?
that is a really good question. Again, the icicles falling, or rock traps, or arrows.
Wait, can't you like go in like the settings and stuff and tweak things? Like
There is a hard mode you can unlock. I don't think anyone's I don't know if anyone's beaten that.
No, that's not clever. I'm talking about like
You're talking just UI stuff.
yeah, like can't you like dig through the system UI more than you'd expect.
Yeah, well, because like the whole point is you're supposed to have a bunch of windows up, and it gets harder the more windows you have. But if you want to have extra bag space, say, that's another window. You want another bag? That's another window. So you've got windows layered upon windows. They're all closing and popping all over the place. Like, and the windows are appearing above those windows, and they'll be like, I can't hit my attack button because my screen's moved over here, and then there's an arrow flying across it, or like the enemies are like spamming little babies all over the place.
It's just like malware popping up all over your computer.
It sounds like
that's actually the comparison I made in my review. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's malware, the RPG?
Yeah.
I heard that there's status effects, and the status effects then are represented by showing like programs open in the lower right.
You know, yeah, that's correct. In the task.
See, that kind of stuff's cute.
Again, I love the gimmick. I love the concept.
Yeah.
There's just not a whole lot there.
I know. I'm just
It
trying to
sounds like a cute video to watch for 10 minutes.
I think a lot of people would have fun with this. It's only like it's cool for those few hours.
Yeah.
It sounds like it could be madness when it's really going crazy.
It is. And again, it's really cool.
I'm on board.
But it's a limited edition cool.
Did you change your facial expressions while playing?
I did, yes.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Let's see your king's white face.
He's nodding.
Okay, you see
He's nodding.
icicles falling.
Now he has that 3 fingers up his nose.
Right, you
No
gotta
one
get
knows
it
what
really
he's trying to
fast.
express.
You'll get the icicle thing down, man. Because if you miss those icicles, you're gonna get hurt. And that was another thing. Like the repetition with the enemies was just like really stupid at times. Like in the final castles, there's only like 3 different kinds of enemies. And it's just like, okay, here we do this again. 2 fireballs.
This is
2
Fortnite.
fireballs.
We're just talking about Fortnite. It's the same thing.
But again,
Everything's the same game. That's what we've learned.
if you're looking for a unique gimmicky thing that you just want to play for a few hours, and, knock around a few golf balls kind of thing, it's
Play Pony Island.
or you can play Pony Island, or you can play this.
I'll be damned.
I gave it a 7.75, and I think it was really cool for that time period.
Got it. Neat. Reiner?
I was going to say Pony Island is a game that plays with similar sort of like weird meta kinds of things, but is over faster and doesn't wear out its welcome.
Do you think the meta video games are ever going to wear out their welcome in general? Or should we be like, all right, we're all aware that these are video games. You don't need to keep referencing that. Are we going to get Stanley Parable to death?
I don't think we are.
Yeah, we don't get too many of these
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Rainer, do you want to give yourself a clap?
See you guys.
Kyle Hilliard. Hey, man, a lot of people getting in here.
Good show.
You're here to talk about Professor Layton on iOS for exactly 1 minute.
Okay.
You don't like this game.
This is not a good Layton game.
Why did you insist on being on this podcast?
Well, because I want to read you guys a puzzle and see if you guys could solve it.
Okay, what's the name of this game, first of all?
It's really going to put me on the spot, aren't you? It's Layton's Puzzle Journey, Catriel, and the Millionaire's Conspiracy.
Are you crapping on me?
No.
That's really the name?
That's the full title.
You flirting us?
It's not that bad.
That sounds like a load of flirt to me. Is that a reference?
I really do want to. I'm playing that game tonight.
What's that? Okay, take it away, Kyle.
Okay,
This is a puzzle.
This is one of the puzzles of the game. I'm going to read to you guys. Hanson, you have notes, so you can take notes if you want. There is a sunny island that's always warm. A popular fish sold at the shops is packed in ice to keep it at the optimum temperature for freshness. It needs 2 blocks for 1 day and 3 blocks for 2 days.
3 blocks of ice?
Mm-hmm.
Hang on. 3 blocks?
2 for 1 day, 3 for 2 days.
2 blocks. Hang on, let's slow down here.
Okay.
1 day. Hang on, I can't read my own
3
handwriting.
blocks for 2 days.
3, 4, 2 days.
Okay.
You didn't tell me it was a math puzzle.
Yeah,
So-
I would have brought paper.
For example,
I would've
5
brought a different
blocks.
brain.
5 blocks would be required for 3 days. So you got 5 for 3 days. A new fish has just been caught. What is the minimum number of ice blocks needed to keep it fresh for 1 week?
Who likes this kind of thing? People pay money for this?
I usually do like this kind of thing.
Okay, so what was the conclusion question again?
How many ice blocks would you need to keep it fresh for 1 week?
Okay, 1 fish for 1 week?
Yes, to keep it fresh for 1 week.
Okay, so
8.
hold on. So they say five for 3 days.
Yeah, here, I'll go 2. Hold on, no, okay.
So 5 for 3 days. So then that would mean that you need to add. Wait a second.
Okay, if you guys want, I can skip to the answer. You guys ready for the
No,
answer?
whoa. 5 for 3 days. So how long?
How long is a week? 7?
Yeah, okay. In this universe, yeah.
I don't. We're thinking work weeks,
Yeah.
5 for 3 days. Then it's 6. 6 for 4 days. 8 for 5 days. 9 for 6 days. And then I think you'd stop there because like the next day it would be fresh, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You guys ready to give me a number?
This 12.
12?
I'm not Copernicus. No one can come up with this
9.
stuff.
9. The answer is 0. Because if you put the fish in a tank and let it live, you wouldn't need any ice blocks.
That's really clever.
No, it's not.
That's so clever.
That
I
is
didn't think
a
about that.
stupid puzzle.
Talk about thinking outside the tank.
What? I hate that for puzzle design.
Yeah, that's really
I don't know how you guys feel.
All right,
about
this
that.
game is dumb.
It's like how much dirt is in a hole. It's just that crap.
And it's like a lot of the puzzles are like that, where it just tricks you.
How much
instead
does
of
a pound
trying
of feathers weigh?
Yeah.
and that's just representative of what the game, like, the game has several puzzles like that.
I will say there are some puzzles I enjoyed, but this, I feel like I saw a lot more puzzles like this, where it just sets you up, it just obscures facts, and it makes you try to come up with something that it didn't even present as an option.
Is it still level 5 making it?
Yep, yeah, still level 5.
But it's just night and day as far as puzzle design goes.
I mean, latent games always have a couple duds. I feel like there are more duds in this game than there are in previous latent games.
I'll be damned.
And that is like the best example of the worst puzzle.
What's the best Professor Layton game to play?
I liked Azran Legacy, which is the last one I reviewed, and the first one is really good too.
Well, there we go. All right, stay tuned, everybody. We've got community emails coming up next.
I do like it.
There we go. Community emails. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have some great emails that people sent into what email address, Dantec?
Game Informer at podcast. Podcast at GameInformer.com.
There we go.
Oh my god.
Podcast at GameInformer.com.
I send all my emails there.
Honestly, I think that it was the best batch I've ever read through. It was like 1 in 3. I was like, this is really good. And then there is some spam in there as well. But most of it was very good stuff. So questions, feedback, anything you want, send it into podcast at GameInformer.com. We read through our favorite emails, and then we pick our absolute favorite of that batch, which boils it down to just pure essence, the pure diamond of community feedback, and then we ship them out something really nice. That's right.
Now, Ben, when you say people can send anything they want, like what kinds of things are permissible to send to podcast at Game Informer?
There was that one guy who sent the fish email that I really liked. It's just like, I like fish.
Tom Awesome from Roseville, Mr. Fishman himself. I love any emails. Here's the conundrum. Some people only watch the show on YouTube, and so sometimes I get emails where it's a very visual thing, and I always think of the audio listeners. So those types of emails I typically won't pick up. But outside of that, Joe, anything that can be conveyed through audio, all for. All right. Anything you want. You can send it an email, Joe.
Yeah, just make up a,
Dear podcast at GameInformer.com. Please get a new host with a better voice.
Wouldn't it be nice if I had a better voice? I think about it all the time.
When I have to get that email, you'll know it's Joe.
Oh, man.
Last week, Joe, I assume you recall, we had Imran in here.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking all about deaths in the Star Wars universe. And whether there's ever been a peaceful death outside of Yoda.
Right.
Within Star Wars films. I remember that. Chuck from Maine writes in, says the answer to the question of who other than Yoda dies a gentle death in Star Wars, there's only one answer I know of: the Republic.
Man, that's
it's an interesting answer.
It's an interesting, but remember that dies to thunderous applause. That's not calm. That's thunderous.
Well, if there was a crowd for when Yoda died, I'm sure the Senate would have erupted in applause as well. They would have put a little Snickers bar on his pillow.
Solemn Snickers bar.
Whatever he ate from Luke.
You have the weirdest family traditions.
two Snickers minis over the eyes.
Put the Butterfinger on Grandpa's bed, everyone.
Anyways, Kate Willert also writes in and says, I was kind of surprised by the speculation in the last episode about when the next generation of console starts. Ready for this twist?
I think this is the third time we've ever heard anything like this.
Well, Kate's surprised because she says, the Switch is already here. Wii was the same generation as PS3 360. Wii U was the same generation as PS4 Xbox One, and was retired early. If Switch is a console rather than a handheld, it's the start of the next generation. The next generation is already here with the Nintendo Switch. It's so stupid. I mean, not so, Kate isn't stupid. It's so stupid not to think of that. They're like, oh yeah, I guess technically, if you want to adhere to of course, like the old three-way race, going back to the origins of the 128 wars.
Yeah,
this is
you're right.
Gen.
But the thing is, we haven't had that race for some time now. Like, it's not how it used to be, where everyone drops their console at about the same time, right?
Nintendo horse just ran through the gates and now it's running around in the parking lot.
Nintendo's done the beat of their own drum thing for since what, GameCube-ish?
Wii.
Wii certainly.
I think Wii marks the point at which Nintendo diverged from what we would call like hardware generations, I guess, and they're just doing their thing. And like, I don't.
But even that, I mean, it was launched like the same week as PS3.
I don't mean for this to sound dismissive of Nintendo. I don't intend to say like, well, we don't even consider them as part of the generation because their consoles are so underpowered or whatever. Because like that's not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they are doing their own thing on their own schedule.
And they even said that. I mean, that was a big message from Iwata with the launch of the Wii and Wii U. Is like, we're in our own playpen over here. We don't need you guys. We're doing okay.
Because, also, by that logic, we're in generation infinity because PCs keep getting upgraded and upgraded. You know.
Well, no, consoles are different. Would you not call the Switch a console? I'm just saying the console race is it?
Is it a console? Is it a handheld that straddles that line? Well, I'm just saying. I think it's clear when we're talking that like Microsoft and Sony are the only ones who are operating on a sort of like generational sort of
traditional console generation war.
Yeah. Even if and whether or not they still are is what we were debating last week.
That's right. I think Reiner said the PS5 is coming out next month or something.
He did say.
So Kate's also wondering if Sony and Microsoft are also working on a handheld console hybrid, because she bets they are. I doubt it. But I mean, it's tough to ignore that people seem to like the Switch.
I think it would be amazing, but it seems like a long shot.
Yeah. Jerry from Arizona says, "Hello, GI team. I have an email specifically for Juba if he's on the podcast. In the dead of night on the 28th, he says, this tweet was sent out. Quote, I just finished Horizon, and it was better than Breath of the Wild in every way.
Yeah.
Simply put, says Jerry, defend this claim. By the way, Joe, I agree with you, says Jerry. I want to make clear that was Jerry from Arizona, not me. Because it seems like the incorrect statement.
Thank you, Jerry. So it was brought to my attention after I tweeted that, by the way, that it seemed like I was deliberately trying to like ruffle feathers with that.
Don't ask me.
Really? I honestly wasn't. To me, it was more like those games have been compared because they came out so close to each other. I keep seeing them compared in different ways back and forth, and like this was just sort of me. We've talked about Zelda before. I don't need to go into it. I enjoyed Zelda. I like that game.
Prove it.
I think. To defend the claim, I guess when you're looking at all of the pillars of a game and I also don't mean to say that this is like objectively this is the case. In my personal opinion, I think, which I think is implied when it's a tweet of mine, that it's a better game.
More objective tweets.
So when you look at the pillars of a game like that I'm interested in. Like, I'm interested in the characters. I'm interested in the story. I'm interested in the combat. I'm interested in the setting. And I think Horizon beats Zelda in that regard for all of them. In the way that, like, it introduces mysteries, it, touches base with them periodically throughout the story, and wraps them up all in the course of, like, critical path. Whereas Zelda, even though it does have some of that, you really have to go out of your way to find those little, like, locations to get that past story stuff, and even then, your main character, and this is a beef I've had with Link for however long, is that like Link isn't a character. Link is meant to be a vessel that like you as a player inhabit, or whatever.
And you just don't buy it. You hate that.
I just don't like that. Yes. Whereas like Aloy feels like a character. I like from that early section of that game when she and Rost are sort of like doing their things. Like I was invested in her. I was invested in Rost. I wanted to know why she was outcast. And like
isn't it kind of like the console thing? Like you can't fault Nintendo for that because it's a game they're not even trying to play. It's not like they're pitching like, oh, Link is a memorable character this time around. You guys see his real emotions.
Look, so my response to that is basically like I don't care what like it's great if you achieve your goal. If that's your goal and that's what you want to make, that's great for you. But that doesn't mean what you were trying to make is good.
I think they're just doing very different things. I think Link is a character that a lot of people have grown up with, and it has a different impact on people. Whereas Aloy, you're right, is a very well written, established character.
I know, but at least who would win in a fight?
I hope Aloy just.
No, that'd be a tough match.
Does he have a guardian arrow? I mean,
yeah, Link has stuff that like cheats outside of the universe. The Aloy's in some, semblance of reality. Link just has like all kinds of stuff that doesn't have a one-to-one futuristic component. Like he's literally like could become invincible against her, right?
Okay, I don't think so. So character, story, combat. Yeah. I enjoyed fighting in Zelda, but again, as I've talked about before, the weapon thing was a problem for me, and just like it didn't feel like there was a lot of strategy for it. You couldn't establish a play style really in Zelda because so much of what you could do was dependent on the gear that you happen to be carrying.
Interesting.
Whereas in Horizon, the way that you like build out your skill points, the weapons you buy, how you outfit them with different like augmentations and stuff. For me, that made combat a lot more rewarding, allowed me to establish a playstyle that I liked.
Yeah, there's comfy ruts, I think they call it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, what does Breath of the Wild do better than Horizon in your mind? Is there anything?
I guess the thing that I really liked in Breath of the Wild. I really liked I liked the shrines. I liked those puzzles. But again, I wish that they were not just these little like one-off things. I liked the idea of more traditional dungeons, which Breath of the Wild didn't really have.
More reflecting light.
But yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
So ultimately, like for me, in every way, for me, that like really matters in defining that kind of experience for me. Horizon took it away.
Why didn't you fit it in the 140 characters?
Yeah, it was a little tough. Yeah.
JD Biddle from Salt Lake City, Utah, writes in with a long email, but I think it's interesting just talking about how they were excited to play Friday the 13th, which a story just went up yesterday about like how it sold over
1.8 million.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Dan I think pointed out in our conversation, it's just
I was not
streaming.
surprised. It's
such a
completely
broken
propelled by streaming, man.
Yeah.
You get on there, your favorite streamer is like, whoa, get killed, this is really cool.
Hang on, is that a channel I can follow? That sounds good.
It is.
No, I mean, I remember when we were reviewing that here in the office, and like I was constantly standing at people's desks and just watching the matches unfold.
Yeah.
Like I only played a few matches, but I was
like
watching that game.
super into like the concept, but then I tried it I think a week after it came out, and I could not get into you honestly cannot get into a game unless you're inviting your own friends.
That's exactly what JD Biddle is
why
writing
I
in about,
stopped
where they
playing
bought it for Xbox One, and you cannot get into a public game. Like, it's broken, it's unplayable, and they're frustrated. Like, how was it ever released if it's this unplayable?
Is it
It's a great question.
still unplayable like
That's what he says. It hasn't been patched. You can still invite friends.
Ridiculous. Okay.
But yeah, he says, since release, May 26th, Xbox users are still waiting for the patch to be able to start and play the game as it was intended. Do you think Microsoft and Sony, I'm sure it's a lot of hoops developers have to jump through, but they need to up their search standards if this kind of stuff is getting through network-wise? It seems insane.
I
think they have to offer refunds on stuff like that, Steam's that's what, like, a lot of people on Steam are like, whoa, you know what, forget this. Boom, hit refund button, and then that's it. It's out of their mind. But
yeah, hopefully you haven't spent 2 hours waiting in lobbies.
Correct. I hope after the first hour waiting in lobbies, you'd be like, okay, wait a minute. The next hour is not going to be any different.
Yeah, it's a wild story. Khalid from Saudi Arabia writes in and says, "What's up?" What's up?
Just podcasting.
Is that the email?
What are you doing?
We're hanging out. We're talking about plorts and gordos are the manner. I'm going to check those out tonight.
Yeah.
At least how's your week going?
It's going good. Good.
What has been the most notable thing that's happened to you this week at work?
At work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Posted that Tacoma review.
I mean, is that really?
JV has not insulted me that much today.
Does he insult you a lot?
Surprising.
Honestly, I feel like you and JV is a friendship that has not surfaced that much in Game Informer's content. Is
That's
that a
true.
weird thing to say?
We were saying that we should do more like streaming together and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah. So he's normally a dickhead.
Yeah, complete dickhead.
Cool. I sit between them. Wow. And
Joe knows all the.
No, Elise throws her fair share also.
Ooh. What kind of stuff are we talking about here?
It's really just dumb stuff.
They play dumb pranks on each other.
Are they funny?
I mean, no.
They just say things like they tell each other they're the worst all the time.
I go over and I mess everything up on his desk.
Oh, yeah. You should mess up his hair. Might get it back in order.
Can't do that.
Mason Cowell says, "Hello, crew. My question today is twofold," which I read as twolfth. Skimming, that's not what that word is.
We got a double here.
Yeah, we got a twolfth. First up, what game had the largest stretch of time between you playing it for the first time and eventually completing it? For example, I started Ocarina of Time when I was 6 years old, but got stuck at the Water Temple and didn't finish it until I was 21.
Oh, God. Well, I'm not going to be able to beat that. My God.
Damn.
Pretty wild. He also says, what game have you started and have been aiming to finish for the longest stretch of time? But I think that first one's more interesting.
I guess.
I think there's a difference between restarting a game as an adult that you couldn't beat as a kid versus picking up literally an old save and going from that exact point on.
Right.
I like picking up the saves.
So this is going to be.
Oh man.
But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. I'm just saying. I think that's a more interesting idea.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd say
I
there
have an
was
answer to both.
Yes.
I have an answer to one.
For me, the pickup one is like I actually never beat Mario, like Super Mario Brothers, when I was a kid.
I haven't either. Yeah.
Despite having it and playing it for however many times, like I could never beat. I don't know. I was like 7 years old. I couldn't beat like Bowser's Castle at the end. So I finally did that when I reviewed the GBA re-release of Super Mario Brothers. Like I don't know, 8 years ago.
Oh, weird.
So I finally actually beat it. Then.
That's a good one. Anything stand out?
That's actually still a great game.
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's like, oh, this is a classic that's just got its place in history, but it's fun. It's a fun game.
There's a reason.
And then the other one for me is The Witcher, Witcher 3, where I put it down. Like I played it for like 10 hours right when it first came out.
Yeah.
And put it down for like 6 months. And then
I did the same thing.
late in the year, like as we were coming up to like end of the year discussions and stuff, I was like, God, I got to finish The Witcher. And I picked up my save right where I left off and was super lost for a few hours, and then managed to like get super into it. And
I used to do that with a lot of RPGs, like big RPGs. I would just spread them out over like a full year. I think I did that with like Inquisition too, and I don't know. It was just kind of preferable to me to like just take my time and just enjoy an open world, and I don't really have that luxury anymore. But I think one game that it's a kind of similar thing to his email, where I used to play Donkey Kong Country a lot, like the first game, like so much on my SNES growing up, and I got to like I think one of the very later levels, and I couldn't beat it, and I just kept going. Instead, I just kind of gave up, and I just kept going back to like older levels, and that was just the thing I did. Was I'd play my favorite levels again and again, and then like I grew up, and I don't know, I must have been like teenage years at this point, and I was just like, oh, I should actually beat that thing.
And you did it?
So, yeah.
And now you feel like
now I feel fulfilled.
You passed into womanhood officially.
I've completed the milestone.
Yeah, I had a similar thing with like Darkwing Duck on NES, and then I was just thinking about it. This question prompted. I was like, man, I remember getting completely stuck in Garfield Caught in the Act on Game Gear, the worst version of a bad game, on this totem pole puzzle. And I wonder, like, as an adult, could I go back to that and just be like, oh, clearly this is it. At some point, I'm going to finish Garfield Caught in the Act, damn. I'm going to free Garfield because he got sucked into that TV and it's not right. John Arbuckle
you want to, but yeah, go for it. So mine would be, I don't know when it came out, but Phantasy Star 4. I did not have a Genesis, so I would always have to go to, it was a relative's friend's house, right? So I'd be over there a lot or something. So I would always play Genesis while I was over there because I had the SNES, they had the Genesis. So like, I never got through with that. So I went back like 2 years ago and finally finished it when it came on Steam. Oh boy, that's a huge gap. That's like what, 20 years? Yeah.
That's really huge.
Also, it's bold to be over at someone's house and be like, I'm going to start this RPG.
No, this was, we were over there a lot, right?
Oh, really?
So it was like, yeah. I actually completed Phantasy Star 2 over there, like on the sake of Masters.
Why'd you spend so much time there?
We were like friends that lived really close to each other.
Okay,
yeah. I had the Nintendo systems, they had the Sega systems.
That sounds fine. Yeah.
All right, yeah, sure. Corey from New Hampshire, as they say in What About Bob, New Hampshire. We're just talking about What About Bob.
It was a really good movie.
It's my favorite.
I watch it like every year.
You don't watch?
I do actually watch it like
every year.
Yeah.
What's your favorite moment from What About Bob?
The part where he's doing the interview, and Bob's just like chilling and steals the entire show from and the family. The whole movie is hilarious with the family like backing Bob, right?
No, it's the dinner scene where he's just like taking a bite of food
and he goes.
Yeah,
that part is really.
That is the best part.
That part might be the best part.
Or I'm sailing.
He's like strapped to the mast. What a punchline. Hell of a I'm sailing punchline. Also, I really like Richard Dreyfuss' performance when he's trying to wake him up. He's like, Bob, rise and shine. And he goes, cock-a-doodle-doo. That's Richard Dreyfuss, and it's very good. And then, of course, the joke is that the alarm goes off and then he wakes up immediately.
Right. I remember that.
Also, like when Richard Dreyfuss comes in and storms into the room because he's making too much noise with his son Siggy, and they're not going to sleep.
Yes.
And he goes, all I want is some peace and quiet. And Siggy goes, I'll be quiet. And then Bill Murray says, "I'll be peace." That blew my mind as a kid. Anyway, so yeah, this question was just about what about Bob? Corey from New Hampshire writes, "Hello, crew. I've been playing Pyre and came across the moment when the minstrel plays a song for your group. I love Supergiant Games for these intimate moments in their games. With the success of Pyre, does it look like Supergiant can do wrong? Or better yet, what can Supergiant do better to solidify their rank as one of the best indie studios out there?" Should ask Greg Casaba.
Yeah, this is tough for me. I still haven't played Pyre, so it's tough.
Yeah.
Plug that, Hanson. You talked to him on last week's podcast, right?
Yeah.
A whole interview with him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is. Someone else wrote in. I really appreciate it, like calling out a specific thing where I was trying to come up with like one unifying word between their games, and in the interview last week, I told Greg this: like the best word I can come up with is confident. Like those games are so bold and so confident and distinct. I think they're already out there as like if you want one of the most unique experiences, just wait for the next Supergiant game. But the part that really caught my attention here is talking about the moment where the minstrel sings a song in the game. And Jared, one of Game Informer's interns, if we'll have on the show in the future, he wrote a song or wrote a feature recently about all like songs within games. It's surprisingly common, especially in the last 5 years or so, to have like a character within the game sing a song. Obviously, you can go back to the roots of Final Fantasy VI and the opera, maybe like the first notable example. But it is strange when you start thinking about it. Like in Tacoma, there's a sequence where someone sings a song, and even like in the AAA space, like Bioshock Infinite, I guess at the end,
The circle.
Yeah.
Was there one of that in The Last of Us, or is that just the trailer for Last of Us?
The trailer part 2.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the end, he's going to teach Ellie how to play the guitar, right?
Yeah,
And then that's the pickup there. Or even Beyond Two Souls, the classic game. She sings the Beck song in the snow. It's a weird way just to. It does work though. It makes you more attached to a character because at least back in the day, by that I mean 5 years ago or so, it was like, I've never really seen a character just sing a full song.
And okay, so it's not actually in-game character singing, but to use music as a real set piece, you've got the ladder in Metal Gear Solid 3, of course, which is...
But little known fact, though, if you rotate the camera around, you can actually see Big Boss singing. It's actually his mouth is moving. Gotta entertain himself somehow. I wish he'd do like a Luigi's Mansion thing where he sings along with the soundtrack. That's so good. Someone named Nail writes in and says, "Hey, GI Crew..." Oh, I'm sorry, his name isn't Nail, that's a username. "Hey, GI Crew, Josh here from Indiana. Don't call me Nail. I just watched the recent PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds live stream with Dan and Ben, and there were a few times where they talked about becoming more connected and building their bond. I think that was the core of the stream. If
That was all.
It made me wonder, does Dan Tack's complete and utter refusal to ever share anything personal about himself make it hard to become friends with him? Or is Dan a lot more open off camera?"
I don't. I'd say that I am, and I'd say some of the questions that you ask on stream are simply inappropriate for.
I'm trying to poke at you a little bit.
I understand that.
I'm trying to tear down the wall between.
So, like, if you want to know like stuff that I'm perfectly willing to talk about a lot of personal topics.
You're a guarded guy off camera, though.
I don't know about that.
Really?
I'd say
You're not cagey off camera?
Don't think so.
I think, Dan, you are.
That's my interpretation of myself.
No. I mean, I think it's other parts of Dan's personality that make him hard to be friends with.
This is a merciless crew. That's why. You wonder why I'm guarded.
It is true. I think the way you present yourself on camera is 99% the way you present yourself.
I think
yourself
you're
off
pretty
camera.
much the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, there's the answer then.
There we go.
But we're not asking you a bunch of like weirdo questions.
That's just Hanson.
Right.
Look, we have like 2 hours to kill in a PUBG stream as we're crawling around because Dan won't go in and get some action. He's too busy. What? Hiding out. Spider over here.
Wait a minute. Are you
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Come on. Someone named Chules writes in and says, "Praise Dan Tack, the sun god." Also says, "I've noticed that when Shadow of War is brought up, someone usually asks why other developers haven't incorporated the Nemesis system into their games. Could it be that the Nemesis system isn't as great as everyone thinks it is? I thought it was a neat idea at first, but then quickly it wore off after more than one of my rivals kept coming back to mess with me after repeatedly chopping off their heads. Turning enemies into allies sort of great as well, but it was 50-50 on whether they get slaughtered in seconds or overpower everyone and render me useless, aka making the game too much of a breeze. Anyone else have this problem?"
This brings me back to we talked about Kingsway earlier. Cute gimmick, and I think that's what that is, and it certainly overstayed its welcome for me. It's a neat thing, but like when people talk about that game, they like use that as the crux of like why the game is so good.
Yeah,
I don't see that at all.
I think I enjoy it. It's different. I still think when people talk about it and remember Shadow of Mordor, I think it's a little bit of the idea of the Nemesis system is more captivating than if you broke it down mechanically, like what was actually going on in that game.
Yeah. I mean, a few things. One being what she
Jules.
Like the fact that like I get it if it's like I stab him and kick him off a cliff and who knows what happened to him, but like when I chop the head off and then to see them come back later, it's just like I don't get why
that's a thing.
Yeah, and like so to end, like a more specific answer is like I think the Nemesis system is a great idea that more developers can like take and play with.
Yeah.
But I think its implementation in Shadow of War, its sort of like, inaugural outing had a lot of problems, and I think that's part of where the surprise comes from, is this idea that shows so much potential.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that no one else sort of took that and iterated on it. Because, like, God, I still remember how disappointed I was at the end of that game when it's like, I had one nemesis that I was sort of like, was like my nemesis for most of the game. But then in the final like hour or something, someone else became my nemesis, some random guy, and then like, oh, that's who is like up at the castle at the end. It's like I have no connection to that. Like I don't know you. Yeah.
Yelling up at the castle.
Why are we enemies or not? So like, all that being said, I think that there's so much you could do with that, and that's what people latch onto.
Yeah.
But I think absolutely it is not as good as everyone remembers it being in Shadow of Mordor.
Very curious about Shadow of War.
Yeah.
It seems like they're making it a lot more complicated. I don't know. I'm curious if the Nemesis system will shine through with that game. It's being like, now they perfected it. This is what we wanted. Dylan writes in, says, has a coworker's review of a game that is poor or even just average made you pass on a game? What example is the most recent Hitman game where Jeff gave it an average score, I think it's 7 exactly, but recently on Twitter I've seen JV go back to it and enjoy it. I was just wondering, what level does a coworker's review make you want to play a game or pass on it?
With very few exceptions, I don't play anything under a GI 8.
Which is weird.
Really?
Yeah, that's usually my bar.
What if we give a game, maybe like Firewatch is a good example. I think Cork gave it like a 7.75, right? But it seems like the rest of the industry really liked it, and it was talked about as one of the best
Again,
games
like
of
I
the
said,
year.
with few exceptions.
Okay.
I think one thing to consider with this, I'm sorry, Elise, you do.
No, you go ahead first.
I think with anything, or like a review is ultimately just someone's opinion on something,
yeah,
right?
that's
So with anything, it depends. It's not just what GI gave it; it's who gave it what.
Yeah.
So like in the case of Jeff Cork and Firewatch, like I read his review, saw the score, but like as any review, it's more than just a score; it's the text. And when you read the text and you see like, oh, these are the things Jeff thought this game did well, they'll sound like things I would like. I ended up playing Firewatch.
right.
Whereas like no matter what score someone gives the next, I don't know.
It depends. Like, if it was a game that I was already interested in checking out, and like the concept seemed really interesting to me, I would probably play it anyway. I'm trying to remember the name of this game, but I think Cork reviewed it. It was some like police simulator.
I think it's just called This Is the Police.
This is the police.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. I'm brilliant. No, anyway, it's I played it and it has like some themes that are a little bit troubling, but like the experience as a whole was like kind of cool. I liked it, and he gave it like a 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's odd. You guys, I hate it when you review games at home, because I always like being able to walk around the office and then just have like a row of monitors. Like, what is this? Is this fun? But it's so fun. Like,
It makes it so much more difficult sometimes.
oh, I
Yeah,
know.
that's-
Like,
Trust me.
sitting in between the Jeffs, like if they're reviewing anything, it's like 4 times a day someone will come up and just say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And then I have to hear him go through the same speech again and again and again and again and again. But still worth it. So you guys should just keep reviewing games in the office, please. Yeah. Right, Dan?
No.
Just play all of Final Fantasy XIV's expansion in the office, please.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions.
Never do.
Did you get through that, by the way?
Yes.
But it was a beast.
Yeah, you can check out the new Massive in the issue coming up soon.
There we go. Looking forward to it. Michael from Roseville, Minnesota says, do any of you guys have game-themed artwork at home? Any suggestions for where to find nice gaming-related art that isn't too tacky or obvious?
Sure. I have a ton in my house. Much of it is from Gibbs Rainrock, a.k.a. Crow Smack.
Oh, okay.
Hang on, coming out swinging. Okay, slow down. Wow. Okay, what is it? Is this an Etsy guy? What is this?
Yeah, you can find him on Twitter.
What's the name?
He does game art, specifically Dark Souls and Bloodborne related artwork.
So your home, which I imagine is just a Bloodborne-esque mansion.
Of course,
is just
it's
covered.
It's cut out of rock, stone, blood, and water. Yeah,
Have you ever invited anybody to your place?
absolutely.
Who's been over there?
I don't know.
Has a single Game Informer editor ever walked through those doors?
Nope.
Why is that?
I got a small place.
He says he's not guarded. He's literally walled himself off, ladies and gentlemen. He won't have it. But apparently we see a lot of cool Dark Souls art inside.
Yes.
I'll be damned. That's neat. As far as good places, just search for stuff on Etsy, I guess. I don't know, I have a very dumb piece of art at home, which I really like. A good friend of mine who, a little nutso, he drew just the mask from Majora's Mask, and then drew like a bunch of naked people in an office, all wearing Majora's Mask. It's nuts, and I framed it and I have it on my wall, and I really, really love it. So I have a nutso friend who's a good artist, I think is a recommendation.
Can I answer for a couple other editors?
Please.
I know Andy McNamara has a super awesome framed print of, again, Metal Gear Solid 3, that, like, the Yoji Shinkawa, like, the tree with, solid or Big Boss and, like, the boss coming up.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Which is, like, that is super awesome.
So be the editor-in-chief of Game Informer to get some good stuff?
Jeff Cork has that old Leisure Suit Larry picture.
This needs more of an explanation. There's a pixelated naked lady.
I didn't know how in-depth I was. I didn't know that I wanted to say Jeff Cork has a naked lady.
Well, it doesn't even count because it's pixel naked. But it's the original Leisure Suit Larry, and he did something awesome, which is took that pixel art, blew it up, so it's a giant painting on his wall, but then mapped it out accurately to the pixels. So, like, to even recognize that it's a naked lady, you need to be standing back and squinting. And he has, like, a couple of kids, but I don't think they see it as, like, a naked lady painting, because it's just, like, 14 squares, you know? You can't even make sense of it.
Yeah.
But it's secretly hardcore pornography, and someday they'll learn that. Forrest Lastman from Lawrence says, hi. Oh, in last week's podcast, Imran Khan talked about, I gotta get used to that name. All right, Imran Khan, our coworker, Imran Khan, talked about listening to financial calls for fun. I've done the same thing, and I will defend financial results as interesting. Cool. What kind of seemingly boring, non-essential work do you enjoy doing, and why? This could be everything from looking at financials to researching older forgotten games to learning how a mechanic is programmed. For me, it's making images for the site, like making the thumbnail for this podcast.
Just cropping images?
That's a huge, no, not even cropping, but like rearranging, finding like, okay, we can't just go for the box art. Everyone's going to see that. Like, what is the deepest cut? Can I pause a trailer at a certain point to grab a still so it'll stand out compared to everybody else's? I make way too many images every week for the podcast. And it's just like a good time to listen to other podcasts and just Photoshop stuff together. I'm really, really into it. That's my thrill.
Sometimes,
Thanks, Jane.
usually I don't like transcribing, but there are some days when I actually just kind of just get in the zone. And I'm like, oh, I'm cool with doing this all day.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because it's a specific task.
I think it's a very specific thing, and it's kind of like methodical, and you get into your own thoughts, and you're just very focused on
People might not realize how much of the job that is recording audio interviews with developers and then sitting down and typing out
But
every word
I
that
can
they say.
also get tired of it.
Oh, yeah.
especially for cover stories and like the features.
Where it's 2 days of talking to everybody in the studio.
And everyone on staff does a fair bit of like editing, features and stuff before they go online. But like I try to read every review that goes up on the site.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy. Some people might find it boring to edit a bunch of reviews. It's miserable. That's what I do.
Who's your favorite review writer on staff?
I'm not going to say that.
Is that right? Do you have one?
That's not
Where you
okay.
look forward
That's
to
not
the
okay to
reviews?
ask.
He's so guarded. He's so guarded.
Neo's my favorite video guy.
No one's been to my house either.
Well, that's not true, actually.
Typical Hanson, like gotcha.
God, yeah.
You
Right,
know?
thanks.
Yeah.
Gotcha journalism.
That's
Who's your favorite and why?
We have a lot of strong writers on staff.
All right. Who's the weakest?
Nope.
All right. Anyways, Chris Stillwell from Pleasant Hill, Missouri says, hello, GI Show. I'm 21. I've been working 2 jobs. I listen to the show on my commute. Lately, I've noticed that when I'm at work, all I can think about is getting home and putting hours into Pillars of Eternity, Pyre, Overwatch, or so many other games. When I actually am home or have time off, I find myself electing to just watch a show or do something else instead. The cycle has continued for many months. My question is, have any of you ever fell into a rut like this, where you just don't want to play games, you just want to watch a show instead?
Specifically for me, we really get that luxury, right? Like, you have to be. Yeah. So no.
I always find the thing was like, I should go through another playthrough of Nier Automata, but Larry Sanders, it's like a 20-minute episode. I can just bang that out instead.
No, if you want to watch like a light show at the same time, that's when you grab the CCG or the MMORPG. You want 2 screens.
Beautiful. What a life.
Yeah, it's great.
That does happen to me actually, and it usually happens after I've played a very long game. It takes a while for me to get back into something. So
Yeah.
like, there was that stretch earlier this year where I played like Nier Automata, Mass Effect, Persona 5, just sort of like all very close together. And I'd say there was a couple weeks. I mean, I was still playing games for work during work, but like after that, when I got home, there was stuff like Breath of the Wild had come out, and it's like, hey, you should play. Horizon had come out. I only just beat Horizon. You know, like I just didn't have the mental bandwidth to play something else at home. I ended up starting a rewatch of The Office.
Right.
You know,
I've
of course.
been there too.
So, naturally, yeah.
Tyler from Virginia has a simple question. Do you guys ever get annoyed in games when you have your character walk 5 to 10 steps and then it starts a cutscene? What was the point of taking control for that little moment?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's annoying.
I think it's dumb.
Cutscenes are dumb?
I'm with it. No, not that cutscenes are dumb. Sometimes they work. Some games are not great, but yeah, I know completely what he's talking about. It's just like, here's your character for 3 seconds after you finish one cutscene, and then you walk 4 steps and the other cutscene starts.
I feel like that was a bulk of our Pokemon Sun and Moon conversation at the game club was, oh my god,
no, honestly,
let me walk more than
those games
1 hour.
are horrible about it, man. Like, you go from, hey, I'm here, up, cutscene.
Well, especially Pokemon Sun and Moon, because it's literally like, I think it's highlighted on the map down below, right?
It tells you where your quest markers are, yeah.
I feel like the last, not Breath of the Wild, but the one before that, Skyward Sword. I feel like that one did that a lot too, at least in the opening.
It was a lot of Fee just guiding you, the little guidance character. But yeah, it was brutal. Trey Parker calls those games cutscene hunters. In the interview with Ernest, he talked about how he hates cutscene hunter games. And how he insists that South Park games cannot be cutscene.
Well, hopefully we get one of those South Park games pretty soon.
Boy, wouldn't that be sweet? I'm looking forward to that for a hot skip and a jump. You're talking about that mobile one, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay,
Phone
cool.
Destroyer.
Yeah, there we go.
Give me that one.
Aiden Hanlon from Columbus, Ohio says, good morning, crew. Good morning, Aiden. For some super odd reason, all developers, publishers, this is true, but he says, for some super odd reason, all developers, publishers, rights holders, etc. have suddenly lost all their IP rights over everything they owned. Oh, did you hear about this?
This is very interesting.
Yeah, I did. Everyone has.
I think we wrote a story.
It's on the news.
Yeah, it's on the news. 3 new companies have hired each of you on the show today to represent them in a new video game intellectual property rights off. It's a draft. Congratulations. You all now get to take turns drafting franchises or IPs that you'd love to have your company work on. Let's assume all have equally talented developers, artists, etc. Do you go for franchises like Call of Duty, which you know will make money, or focus on reviving long-dead series to want to see them brought back to life?
Yeah, well, who gets to go first?
This is the draft.
Yeah.
Elise, you want to go first?
So which IP I would want to own, basically.
Everything's up for grabs. Absolutely everything's up for grabs. What do you want?
Good lord, I'd probably go with Mass Effect.
I guess Elise. Okay. Next up, I don't know how sports drafts work. Dan, do you ever watch those?
Yeah, I do.
Is there a formatting that we should mimic here?
Basically, the first person who went first round doesn't go first in the next 2 rounds. Everybody gets a first pick. Basically.
So you're saying they just go clockwise?
For one thing, we would have rolled off. Because I'm sure me and Joe have the same first pick, and that's really bothersome to me.
And Elise, I think in last season she was the lowest scored IP, so that's why she got to go first this time.
This isn't. Obviously, we're not holding to any kind of standard here.
Hey Joe, what game do you want to own?
You know what? I'll let Dan take the one I was thinking of. I'll take Metal Gear Solid for a couple of reasons. One, I love that series. For another, what I would love to do is just keep Konami from screwing it up. So it's like by taking ownership of it, I can. Like, maybe I'm not going to profit off of it, but I can at least protect it.
Right. But would that involve, going back to the old conversation that the YouTube channel loves, would you then nuke Metal Gear Survive if you owned it and that game was coming out and you could press that button?
But we just... we have the same
and also because like I don't know how we're going to cover that game in the future. I don't want to set up something that's like, hey, Joe hated that game from the beginning or whatever. So
there we go. My number 1, Pokemon! Let's focus that thing down. Spread out.
What are you gonna do with it?
Freeform exploration. Really embrace
boy.
more of an open design for Pokemon. Get that story out of there.
Okay.
Dan, what do you want?
I'll take Final Fantasy.
Oh,
And I'm bringing it back. All right,
does
we're
that
doing job systems. We're doing ATB. We're gonna make a pixelated one.
Crystal comes back.
Oh, so we're doing
Wow.
16-bit?
We're gonna do a 16-bit one. But
All right.
there's still gonna be the main line, but we're doing a 16-bit one.
Like
on the side.
Dimensions 2?
Is it going to be mobile and split into 4 chapters?
No, we're gonna. You know what? The mobile division. I'm gonna take them in a little cart, just dump them right out in the ocean, and then we're going.
You're going to
straight back
drown those developers?
No, they can swim.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. Elise, round 2.
Hey, no. She went first last time. Now that's to go.
Correct.
It
It would
goes
be.
in reverse.
I don't understand your sports rules.
Okay,
Can we
fine.
just go around in a
Whatever.
circle?
Elise gets to go next.
Thank you.
Okay. Good lord. Need to think. I would go with. Jesus, why
That
can't-
Tacoma IP is sitting right there. it's right there.
I don't know, guys.
It's ripe for the ignoring. Are you
Let's
passing?
No, I'm not.
Let's change it up then. We'll give her some time.
Yeah, let me think.
All right.
Okay. My next one would be I take this for the sole purpose of reviving it and bringing it back.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've talked about this on the show several times, but I want Valkyrie Profile back. I just restarted Valkyrie Profile, the first one on PS1,
Yeah.
over the weekend because, like, I don't know. I've talked about why I like this game so much. It's a great RPG, a lot of depth. That Tri-Ace has sort of lost their footing in recent years, and I think getting back to what that first, and the second one.
So you like Valkyrie Profile and Valkyria Chronicles.
Yeah, hey,
Gun Valkyrie, is that a game as well? Do you like that?
You're gonna take my next pick, man.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Number 2. We'll go
Okay,
Sunset
okay.
Riders.
So we're doing all the
Let's revive that
old
baby.
IPs now.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
okay.
get some weird neon cowboys back in town. Elise, you ready?
Wait, what are we doing now? Something's changed?
No.
Or Oh, no. Okay,
No, we're still
so-
just naming games.
It's still just IPs that you
Alright, well, The Last of Us.
Oh.
Okay.
Just grabbing it from Neil Druckmann's dirty hands.
I think that would be a pretty great IP to have.
Just to, like, make more whimsical and fun?
You know what I would do? I would probably make more, kind of same DLC that they had. Like,
Just more bite-sized stories?
I would love more of that.
Yeah, that would be good. More squirt guns. Stantec?
Let's go with Shining Force. Let's bring that back. Let's make it good. Let's make Shining Force great again. I think, especially with the modern success of like the Fire Emblem games, I think a Shining Force game stands to benefit from that success now more than ever. And
Needs an awakening.
that series needs to come back and not be a mobile piece of crap. So let's do that.
There we go.
Take Shining Force and do that.
Elise, you want to go again, or Joe? Can we go right to you?
I got something.
Hit it.
Earthbound.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that would be super fun to make like a modern Earthbound.
Would you make it 16-bit?
I don't know. That's a good question. No, I think it would be kind of cool to like modernize it a bit.
And plus, with all the IPs you own, you could probably
And
make that
just
Last of Us
make sure
Earthbound
it's still
crossover.
as quirky as hell.
Yeah,
basically.
absolutely. Joe?
I think I'd go with something a little more modern on this one. I know Elise already has Mass Effect. I'd take Dragon Age.
Okay.
I know that's.
I was also thinking about that.
I know Inquisition is a divisive game in our office, but that is one of my favorite RPGs.
And you would like to shepherd it.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, Inquisitor it.
Inquisitor. Yeah. I'd also take Valkyria Chronicles.
That doesn't count. Sorry, no, that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
I've got it. That's my fourth pick.
This is a confusing rates ones. I would take a Lego games just so I can make my Lego Old Testament game once and for all. It's a gold mine waiting to happen. Tech?
I will take Warcraft. I can make a lot of money and have some fun.
Comma World of.
You know what? I think we'll put World out to pasture and do something neat. Do something different with it.
Something different, like an adventure game.
A MOBA.
God, no MOBAs. no MOBAs, no CCGs, and no Battlegrounds. All right, so we're not doing any of those.
Warcraft Battlegrounds would be so good. I have an idea for a free-to-play survival game.
Oh, yeah.
Starring Warcraft
It's
characters.
genius. Everybody lands on an island, and you all have a hatchet, and you're either an orc or a human, and
Yeah.
build up. Oh, gosh.
There you go. Innovation.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Coming to early access in about a year on Steam, by the way. You didn't just say I want to make an RTS again.
No, we're definitely not making RTS.
What would you do with it, Hotshot?
I'm thinking something. It's gonna be an MMO. What? It's gonna be an MMO. It's just not gonna be the traditional tab targeting MMO. We're gonna do something cool with it. I don't know.
Let me guess, an action-focused combat MMO.
It'll be action combat.
Okay, all right.
But it's not going to be like, all the MMOs right now. It's like, hey, we've got action. Yeah, everybody does that. So
But I
this
think-
would be the next World of Warcraft for World of Warcraft, right? Like, we're
I
going
think you
next
also
gen.
argued in an earlier episode of the podcast that World of Warcraft 2 would just be a more action-focused MMO. So isn't Blizzard
No.
handling this on
I,
their own?
didn't- I never did not argue that. I argued that there would be, the essential graphical upgrade that will happen eventually. That there will definitely be World of Warcraft 2 someday. You know that.
And let's also clarify that Dan isn't making this game. He's just having the
I
rights
just-
to it.
That's right.
And guess
has
what?
He is a fat cat.
Since I have the IP, we're also going to make a good movie. So,
Oh, nice.
I'm getting
that works.
the Coen brothers to do it.
That works. I still am fascinated by when Blizzard announced they're making that movie. They did like a lot of interviews where they
Sure.
we're making a good one. Like that was like their only talk.
But what were they gonna
You know,
say?
good movies like Godfather, Citizen Kane. We're making
That's
one
not
of those types
They
of
said
movies.
that because of the stigma behind video
Of
games.
course, but it's a weird marketing message for the first beat of a movie to be like, this one's going to be good, you guys.
And everyone loved it.
I had to turn
We
it off.
sure did.
I couldn't do it. But Duncan Jones, friend of the show, he's on the podcast, love it. Anyways, favorite question, what do you guys like?
I like the New Hampshire. What about Bob?
But they did not know they were triggering a What About Bob.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because then we talked about
I like the
musical moments,
hypothetical
too.
IP one.
Yeah.
That was
The IP one was-
that one was off the wall, and I haven't heard a question like that down here.
Yeah,
so-
that was cool.
either.
I know it's usually like don't give it to the last question because that's just the one fresh in your mind, but
Right.
that one really
That was actually the most
it
creative.
created a really cool table discussion, got the old noggin cooking.
As far as something different, I like the picking up an old game thing too. I like the just, hey, Switch is the next
We had a
console
lot of
debate.
good questions this
You
time.
did.
There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
doubt.
yeah.
There's no doubt. Music thing? Are we all right? If two people are leaning IP, I
I'm
can lean
leaning
IP.
I think so.
Joe, can you
Joe doesn't
lean
want to
IP?
lean
No,
IP.
I'm hard against.
Okay,
but,
he's hard against.
we don't need. It doesn't need to be unanimous. You can go against me.
That's right. And Joe, you can.
What's
you
the other
can,
contender?
you can celebrate Corey from New Hampshire for the song stuff.
the What
We're
About
talking
Bob
about
one?
Supergiant Games. Yeah, the accidental What About Bob email. Yeah. But let's go IP. That's a thorough, fun idea. So,
I think so.
Aiden Hanlon, we'll ship you out something real nice. Thank you so
Okay.
much. For now, stay tuned. We're going to be talking to Brett Douville. This podcast ain't over, folks. All about LucasArts. Back in the day, George Lucas talking about Todd Howard, all the greats. We're talking about Skyrim's development. Then we're talking about switching over to Tacoma. He's a wise man. So, and also a programmer, which is pretty rare for interviews. So listen to this. Brett Douville, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir. Thank you very much. It's an honor to have you. You seem like a guy who's very interested in art, creativity, trying to understand the industry. You post a lot on your blog. You have the Dev Game Club podcast trying to dissect everybody else's work. And I want this interview to be a mirror that we turn back on you because no one's reflecting on your work in the industry, man.
Well, that's great. Reflections are real time these days, so I guess that's cool.
So, with all your work, I mean, you post so much on your blog, Dev Game Club. I don't know how the hell you and Tim Longo over there are playing so many games and finding the time. What, just broadly speaking, what are you trying to get to the bottom of? What are you trying to learn by doing that?
I mean, it's two things for us. I mean, one is just an opportunity. Tim and I have been working. We worked together for 7 years at LucasArts. Most of the time we were there, and I shipped 3 games with him. So we've been friends for coming on 20 years now. So part of it is just to have an opportunity to discuss games, period. And we tried to find a way to find a niche that maybe wasn't being covered. So it's really a twofold thing. One is to be an opportunity for us to talk together, which we don't get nearly enough time to do. And the other is to sort of provide kind of a dev view into a sort of book club type books. So you're not, you're often reading the classics in a book club, for example, and we're trying to basically read the classics, as it were, in video games. And we try to find things that are certainly still playable, whether it's in emulation or on various machines and things like that. But the biggest thing is to find those lessons that those things were establishing and how they sort of directed the industry, for good or ill, over the years that followed. So,
have you noticed that you've learned something concrete from it in your work on either Tacoma or Tim's work on Halo 5 or other things where it's like, you know what? Going back to Warcraft 1 really reminded us that this aspect's important.
well, I mean, one of the ones that Tim brings up all the time is Zelda as the sort of the loop of getting an item that lets you reach an area you couldn't before, or that enables a new way to view the space that you've been using. He uses that all the time. We need this thing. We had an amusing exchange, which was all about things. Well, we need a Zelda thing to get the thing so we can do the thing. And,
Zelda things.
Exactly, right. Just things. So that's one of the concrete examples that I think we pull forward. For me, as a more technical guy, there's not necessarily going to be a lot I can draw from. I don't do a lot of gameplay programming lately. I'm more a systems programmer in the last 10 years or whatever. And just because I've been doing it so long, that's what they want to pay me to do. But so a lot of this sort of system level knowledge is, this hardware is all old and dead for the most part, and it's hard to take specific lessons from that. But it's not impossible, and so you keep an eye out. So I wouldn't say day to day it's influenced my work on anything in particular.
Sure. One of the most interesting parts of the podcast I've listened to so far is I love the Final Fantasy IX discussion that you guys did a little while ago, and I reference it all the time. But I loved hearing Tim, especially, just trying to wrap his mind around how many game engines are happening here. How is everything so handcrafted? What were those Japanese developers thinking? It's amazing, but how did they pull it off this way? And even I think Polygon wrote an oral history of Final Fantasy VII recently, and I guess that game had 5 different game engines running in it. Are there other little quirks that have stood out to you that you're just stunned going back to these games about how the developers pulled it off?
Yeah, everyone has different things that are just amazing to me, and one of the things that has come up a lot has been the ways in which, for example, a speedrunning community has found workarounds with different games, whether it's Super Metroid or now we're doing Super Mario World, and there are just some really amazing exploits to these games that we, as developers, we don't necessarily know that those things are coming. I picked on Tim a little bit about Halo 1, and sometimes you leave those things in there, the Warthog launching and things like that, those weird physics bugs that those things had. You look at that stuff and you're just like, wow, I had no idea. And for me, it also just points out it's impossible to bulletproof the game. It's just not. It's never going to happen. You're dealing with these limited machines that they're going to find a way to. Somebody will find a way to break what you did. And those things are extraordinary to me.
Even from the outside perspective, at least, it always seems like Nintendo has the most locked down, bulletproof games. But I think the speedrunning community alone has shown no, you can still crack through that armor.
Right. If you just go backwards and jump up and do butt stomps on the photo on the wall in Mario 64, of course you'll just go through and teleport. And you're like, how is this? How do you even find that?
Yeah.
So it is. Things like that come up all the time. The Final Fantasy IX one is a good example as well, because I remember playing that the first time, and I always watch the credits on games all the way through. I feel like that's it's worth giving creators their due. And I remember with those games seeing such and such programmer, like combat game programmer, or combat program. I can't remember how they say it, how they translate it from Japanese. But it's basically like this person wrote this program, and this person wrote this program. And on the PlayStation 1, they could kind of load in different programs very quickly, because you only had to fill 2 meg of RAM. So you could load a different program, executable, and run that stuff. So it is really interesting, the things that you can kind of pick up by examining that. But yeah, you get a different one for the overworld, you get a different one for combat, you get a different one for the dungeons. It's amazing stuff.
It's more stitched together than any player would ever realize. What do you mean? It's just the overall Final Fantasy VII experience, but no, it's just a mess under the hood.
It's a handful of experiences stitched together, and data is passed from one to the next. It's amazing.
So being such a technical guy, are you able to sit back and enjoy these classic games or even modern games, or are you always thinking about what's going on under the scenes here?
I do definitely pick at things, and I try to understand how they're made and sort of circumstances in which they're made. I like to bring that at least in one of the episodes of the podcast and talk about, okay, this hardware could do these things. With the Super Metroid, we talked about the SNES, which had all this sort of image scaling and rotating of the backgrounds and things like that, and these different modes for rendering. We talked about all that stuff. Even though I've never programmed that machine, it makes me really curious and wish I had a dev kit for that machine to play with, just out of curiosity to how to make it do that stuff. Because often when you're actually in it, you don't appreciate what you're dealing with I started on the PlayStation 2, and that was a pain in the neck to program in many ways because it had multiple CPUs, a graphics controller, and then an input controller, and then the main CPU. And you had to use this thing called DMA, which I won't go into, to move stuff around, and they had these special sub-controllers. I mean, the hardware was nuts, and I had to ship a game. So my focus was, I got to ship this game. And now looking back on it, not only do I feel like I have more tools now to have been better using that hardware, just from my experience, but I also just think it would be more fun to program on that machine now, that I got some distance from it. A year after I shipped my last PS2 game, which was Jedi Starfighter, I remembered, actually, I think it was more than a year. It might have been like 5 years. I woke up and was like, oh my god, we could totally do this. And I was still thinking about how to optimize that system, way after it was going to be any benefit to anybody. So,
even now, are you waking up in the middle of the night thinking about PS2 architecture?
Even now, I wake up sometimes and I'm like, oh man, if I could just have that back.
So, looking back on your entire career, what period do you find really fascinating that maybe people don't ask about or appreciate how fascinating it was?
Well, for me personally, I think my favorite project in a lot of ways was Starfighter because it was my first.
Oh, okay.
I learned so much, in the course of a couple, 3 years, whatever it was, in so many different ways. I mean, it was my first job, so there's that. So I was learning to work, in the real world, as it were. I had been in grad school prior to that, so there's that. I was learning a ton about programming for games. I mean, I learned a ton in grad school, but when you actually have to get out there and make a thing that has to go to people, it's a totally different experience.
Especially with that license.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is that I got to work with. It was my first time working with really creative people. I mean, when you're siloed away in an engineering school, you're mostly working with other engineers, and there is creativity in engineering, but it's a different sort of creativity than a designer has, for example, or an artist has. And it's nice to be exposed to those different things. But that's ultimately what attracted me to games was it engages both sides of my brain, right? The left side of the brain, gets to go and do this stuff. The right side of the brain is going to do this other thing. And it's just a perfect marriage for me. And it's something I've always sought, in how I approach my life. It's just both the mathematical rigor or the sort of logic and then the ability to explore a more creative, artistic side. So,
yeah. When did the sexiness of working with Star Wars wear off? Was there a certain point where you realized, this is just a day-to-day job now, and I don't care that this is technically a starfighter?
Well, in some ways it never did, and in other ways it really did. So I would say the things that drove us crazy, and this was true of anybody. Like we used to call Hayden Blackman, who ended up being, I guess, the Force Unleashed project leader. He was Star Wars Galaxy's point man for LucasArts, and then he went and did Mafia 3 most recently.
Yeah.
Hangar 13, I guess. Anyway, so Hayden was, of course, in the building. I would play StarCraft with him at lunch, and we would call him, every other day with a stupid question about Star Wars. Like, hey, is there any safety feature on a lightsaber? Like, if you put that thing up against the side of your head and you turn it on, is it going to stop? And he would answer these questions in a serious way, he would go through what canon knows because he had written the Encyclopedia Project.
Right, for episode 1. Yeah.
Yeah, for the episode 1. On that CD-ROM, and so he'd answer this fully blown, and at the end he'd say, "I hate Star Wars," and hang up. Just wouldn't even dignify the fact that we called. He'd just ramble and then hang up.
Were you just with him with these questions, or were they real questions?
Yeah, totally. We didn't need to know these things. We were just, what can we ask him today? So that was great fun, and so we never kind of got bored with being in Star Wars from that standpoint. But on the other hand, we also had to work with the license and have everything approved through the Lucasfilm licensing. And they weren't in the building, and they didn't really know us. They didn't really know what we did. They didn't really understand games. We had a meeting with them once over some big project, something like Galaxies, and Lucasfilm licensing representatives were there, and it was clear they weren't people who played games. It was clear. I mean, they were the sort of creative film people who are used to just telling a team of special effects people make this thing happen.
Yeah.
And that's fine when it's going to be in a still image, even a multiple still images, obviously, but you don't have to interact with it in any direct way. when that now has to be something that you could be at any point inside that 3D space, it's a totally different thing to make that run in real time and things like that.
You would think someone that would be in charge of the Star Wars license would understand the concept of games. I mean, Star Wars is so like entrenched in tech throughout its entire history. You think you need like a base level understanding of what the hell a game is, right?
But it's all, kind of broken down tech. I mean, I don't think people would really stand for the holograms of Leia. Like, the quality of that, if our TVs look like that, we'd stop watching TV. It's all, like, broken down stuff. I mean, that's part of its charm, right, is this magic stuff. And then there's all this kind of shambling, remains of Empire, that have kind of gotten overgrown. I mean, I think that's part of the appreciation of the zombie stuff that's so au courant, has kind of been done to death in the last decade.
Right.
Is that this stuff that we know and see every day is breaking down and falling apart, and we're trying to make our way through it in sort of what remains. And I think that's a really appealing kind of fantasy, and I think it is part of the fantasy of Star Wars, is that, yes, there's all these enormous starships and things like that, but they all kind of break down, and like hyperspace doesn't work unless you bang on it like a jukebox. I mean, it's
relatable.
I think that's a very human experience of technology, especially in the 60s and 70s, right?
Yeah. So what was the most frustrating conversation you had to have with somebody at Lucasfilm about video games?
I mean, I didn't really have to do that all that much, but I do feel like the craziest thing was for episode 1, because that was so secretive. There were posters everywhere in the company, like with Darth Vader with a loose lips starships. So we were not supposed to talk, right? And of course, somebody down in Hollywood somewhere leaked the script at some point and things like that. We had nothing to do with it. They never had to worry about the internals, but we had a room that was near the president's office where they had all the materials that we were allowed to have. So concept art, they had huge binders full of information and CD-ROMs and whatever. But no more than, I want to say, 2 people, maybe 3 people from a project could be in there at a time. And they couldn't be from different projects because they might see different things. And we had to do all these requests through a particular administrative assistant who would actually get the stuff for us. So, like, that kind of bureaucracy around not letting any one person see too much was really limiting because, a lot of the ships that we designed for Starfighter, for example, we just went with kind of, okay, well, there's this pirate gang, because we didn't really have access to other materials that might have influenced the concept artists, for example.
Yeah.
We didn't see the pod racers. I mean, it would have been kind of neat to have pod racing influence maybe on the starships that we had, like multiple engine things that were chained. I mean, that would have been kind of a different sort of thing that nobody had seen before, and it would have fit with Star Wars, and we never found our way to that because we weren't exposed to the materials until far too late. So,
it's so frustrating. It's like we're on the same team. Like, why can't we align everything? Does that come from, how much of that culture and philosophy comes from Lucas himself, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, he's a very private person, and for the most part, people didn't interact with him. When on those few occasions when he was seen, he very rarely came to LucasArts. I think I was only ever in the same building with him once at LucasArts. I would go up to the ranch and have lunch on occasion. We'd do interviews up there sometimes for people who wanted to impress, and so he would sometimes be at lunch there. But in terms of actually coming to visit us, I mean, that was very rare.
Yeah.
Only game I know that he looked of mine was Republic Commando, and he gave us really good feedback, to be honest. And we felt like, boy, it would have been nice to have George commenting on other stuff. So,
what kind of feedback did he give you?
So it was right after E3, so it was very late because, of course, although we came out in February, April, something like that, in 2005, we were actually done we were supposed to be done like that August of 2004, and it ended up being stretched out because of George's feedback into later, like December or November, something like that we actually wrapped. But his feedback was, the game is too serious, and you couldn't distinguish any of the various commandos. And that was because we had all had them voiced either by Tamura Morrison, who played Django in the film, or we had gotten sound alikes. I mean, we had already determined that the voice, having Tamura do all of the voices, was not good because then you couldn't understand what was going on at all and who was speaking.
Yeah.
But all the characters were still white. If you go back and look at videos from that time, all the commandos have just pure white armor, and they had no personality between them. And our argument was, well, look, they're clones. And he basically said, doesn't matter, do what you want. They're special clones if you want them to be, but they have to be individual, and there should be some humor. And he actually suggested we get Robin Williams to voice one of them. Which wasn't going to happen ever because we didn't have that kind of budget.
Did he mean that, or was it just like, somebody like Robin Williams?
No, it was like, no, get Robin Williams. Because he knew Robin. Robin was in Marin County. He lived in Marin County, and I think he and George were neighbors in the sense of living in the same town. Ross, I think. So he had certainly met him, and Robin Williams was a big fan of our work, and so was Spielberg. I mean, there were a lot of people in George's crowd that were aware of LucasArts. Anyway, we were like, well, we're not going to get the genie to voice a Republic Commando, but we went and got Mike Stemley and Ryan Kaufman to rewrite a lot of the dialogue. We worked in a dialogue system that really made conversations happen and not replay them. So that was a big deal. And through that, and then just allowing it to have this kind of crime scene kind of humor come out of that, just being, these are the soldiers, and soldiers talk, and they have a lot of, dark humor about what they're doing.
And they're constantly doing impressions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're constantly, he's going to be Bogart one scene, and then he's going to be Garbo, and, nobody's going to understand that because it's a galaxy far away, but, whatever. We get it.
Why did Lucas's feedback come so late? I'd imagine that would just tear the team apart. If he just would have told us this during pre-production, we could have saved so many man-hours.
Yeah, it was very disruptive, and we pushed back. But what people always said about George is if he says something once, you can probably ignore it. But if he says it a second time, then he really means it and it has to happen. And in our case, he said it a second time, and so it was a thing that we had to do. We would have loved to have it earlier. I just think he was so focused on the prequels then, right? I mean, this would have been, Episode 3 hadn't come out yet. Episode 2 had. We were trying to bridge that gap a little bit with that game. I think at that point he started to take more of an active interest, and it might have been in part because we were starting to look at merging with ILM, and I can't remember the timeline exactly, but there was this sense that the two businesses could inform one another. Our real-time rendering expertise might help them pre-visualize. Their storytelling and framing expertise might really help us. Artistically, there had been some sort of inroads there, like Bounty Hunter. Whatever you think of the game, the cutscenes in the story were very good, and that was largely because of an interaction with ILM and getting that story told in those cutscenes. And so that was kind of the start of all that, and I think that might be why he started to take a more market interest.
Interesting.
So we just kind of were in that place where, well, he's interested, and he saw it, and now he has feedback, and he's the boss.
Yeah. Was it challenging to get something as fresh as Republic Commando through the system at LucasArts?
It was. We were, and I wasn't on the project the whole time. I was on Full Throttle 2 for a period of time.
Oh, weird.
Fell apart. But initially, this was one thing that Darren Stinnett, who was originally the project lead and then ultimately the executive producer for Republic Commando, and he had been my Starfighter boss and Jedi Starfighter boss. He did Outlaws and Dark Forces. So Darren's been in the industry, or was in the industry a long time. He's doing something else now. But his genius was always trying to isolate the team from the rest of the building. When I got to LucasArts, I was originally kind of in the thick of it, in this hallway that was close to everybody, right around the corner from the president's office. And he took us and he put us in a corner of the building that had been completely unoccupied. This was a time when LucasArts was really trying to grow, and I think it went from 75 to 100 developers to over 350 in a short span, no more than a couple of years, which has its own things. But for Republic Commando, he took that same team and put them in an office. It was a small team figuring out how to make this game with the Unreal Engine, which was a whole new thing. And he put them in this isolated spot in what was called the mezzanine, which you had to go. You had to have a key card to get to because it was was not really part of our space at all, but we had gotten that space, and it was kind of sort of associated with Lucas Learning, which was in the same building with us. Anyway, he basically isolated everybody over into there, and doing things like that made him able to stay under the radar long enough that he could get a lot of good work done. But then when he was really ready to ramp up and be in full production, he would be the Star Wars game, and he could kind of demand what he needed, resource-wise, people-wise, artists and animators. Oh, I need to have this animator because this animator's really good at that, or this programmer, And so he kind of germinated and kept out of the sunlight, and then would kind of like, okay, now I need a lot of space, and you need to build in with these people and get it done. And, that's just a strategy.
Yeah. How deep in development did the sequel get to? Was it Imperial Commando? Is that?
Oh, right. So there were nowhere. I mean, there were basically ideas, because the company rebooted itself between us finishing the game and it coming out. So the last 5 months of that project were brutal because as we hit various milestones, large parts of the team, different parts of the team would just be laid off as we were finishing the game. So it was kind of a brutal period. And then I left on December 23rd or whatever, right before Christmas, was my last day, and people were scratching around design ideas, but the company had been so significantly turned over at that point. There was no, I don't think Jim Ward, who became the president, really had any belief in the title. I had heard reports that he spoke at a all company meeting and was like, wow, Republic Commando sold yada 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 units, whatever it was, and he was genuinely surprised because it had really no advertising and had a total sleeper hit kind of quality that he just didn't expect. He's another person who was not really a gamer all that much. We played some Madden or something like that, but he didn't play the Star Wars games. So,
So then, yeah, I would imagine. So then that December 23rd, you packed up and went out to Maryland then for Fallout 3?
That's right. I didn't join up with Bethesda right away. I spent a year with Day One Studios. They were about an hour away from where my kids are.
Okay.
There was some personal stuff in my life. I was getting separated and divorced and stuff like that. So I just didn't want to do that every day. Drive too much. So instead, I went and did some consulting. I worked a little bit on the Star Trek Online. Other stuff, and yes, it was Star Trek Online when it was with Perpetual. So I did that for a year. I consulted on a couple things here and there, and then I went to Bethesda. When I originally interviewed with Bethesda towards the end of 2004, they were basically heading into their Oblivion crunch, and having just come off my Republic Commando crunch, I just said to them, look, I am so fried right now. I need to go somewhere where I'm not going to immediately go into another beer crunch.
And trying to get caught up on everything with Oblivion, like, okay, how do I hit the ground running at the home stretch here?
Yeah, so instead I ended up coming in more towards the very end of Fallout 3. I started there in June or July, and it shipped in October, November.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time at the end of that project just, I was hired as a lead, but nobody needed leadership at that point in the project. It's just like, let's get this thing done. So I just dove in and helped improve performance and stability. And then that became a big focus of what we did moving forward for Skyrim as well.
What is it like the first time you hear Elder Scrolls 5 and Skyrim? While you're working on Fallout 3, it's just like, well, everyone knows. Next we're going to do Elder Scrolls 5. But then at some point, is there a group meeting where it's like, by the way, it's called Skyrim?
I don't. It's hard for me to remember how that happened. So I was not a huge. I played RPGs my whole, gaming life, but I think I hadn't played much of Morrowind.
Okay.
I'd seen it. I definitely played it just in preparation to interview. So before I went there, I played Oblivion quite a lot. Actually, somebody, a friend of mine from LucasArts, Reed Knight, had recommended it and said, you really gotta give this a go. And I was like, well, I don't know. Morrowind was kind of a lot of books that you're supposed to read or something. I don't know what the heck's going on with that thing. And there's not a lot of direction, right? And he said, no, Oblivion is a much more polished version of what they're trying to do, and you should give it a try. So I did, and I got really into it. I finished, big like Thieves Guild quest and the big like Mage line, and the fighter. There's maybe a Fighters Guild quest line, I think, in the main story. Right, so I did basically 4 of the 5 big quests.
Sure.
And so I spent a lot of hours on that thing. And in fact, it was one of the things Todd asked me, well, how much have you played of Oblivion? When he interviewed me, and I was like, well, I did this quest and this quest. And he's like, okay, played quite a lot of the game. But for me, I didn't have this long history with the Elder Scrolls. I hadn't, I had only scratched the surface with Morrowind at all. I played a lot of Oblivion, but it didn't carry a lot of. So Skyrim didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know it was the land of the north and all that stuff. I think the thing that really connected with me, and I think he talked about this at DICE after it came out, was that when they found the sort of key image of what it was going to be like, what this thing would feel like, and what the sort of aesthetic was meant to be, grandly speaking, was, it's sort of Conan in the snow, that actually kind of connected with me, like, oh, okay, I get what we're making now. We're making that kind of thing, that kind of high fantasy, it wasn't the polished kind of imperial area, it was this, far-flung province or whatever, and having that image, which kind of morphed into the Elder Scrolls Dragonborn guy that you see in all the key art.
Yeah.
That was the thing where it's like, oh, okay. I mean, the whole team kind of got around that, and we're like, oh, okay, now we know. I mean, now we know what we're making. And
it's so crazy how just one thing can lock it in for so many people. It's like, oh no, Conan in the snow. Okay, got it. Let's go ahead and make a game now. Yeah. What doesn't the outside world know or appreciate about the internal workings of Bethesda Game Studios?
What do they know?
What don't they know? What should we appreciate more about the way that place works and how they're able to crank out those games?
This kind of came up recently. Somebody was asking me. I was interviewed about some archaeological stuff that somebody had done to dig up the Civil War remnants that were in the packaged data that shipped with the game.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, originally our original thoughts were there were a lot of systems that were a lot deeper in the game, and ultimately we didn't find them fun, and so we removed them. And people will say, well, you can tell that the original vision for the game was this. And we said, no. I mean, this is, I think, the thing that people don't understand about Bethesda games. There's not one vision. It's not like we write it all out and it's this thing. It's a million things, and we'll pick the things that are really strong, and we'll kind of shine a light on those. The dragons were not going to be as big a deal as they ended up being. They just were so successful. Dave D'Angelo, who's a programmer there, he kind of went off on his own and worked with an animator and a modeler, which is Jonah Loeb, who's also ex-Bethesda, and they made this thing really feel like no dragon had felt before in a video game, at least as far as we felt. And that was so successful that I was like, okay, well, that's definitely more of a thing now.
This is a dragon game now. Yeah.
Exactly. We'll build a lot more around that than we had originally intended. And, so I think a lot of the sort of random dragon encounters you'll have were not a thing. And that kind of pulled stuff along with it. The dragon priests became more of a thing. And that kind of, all that stuff sort of pushes the Civil War to the background a little bit. As a result. And the Civil War stuff was just less successful, and so we just kind of were like, okay, well, it's nice flavor, but building a lot of systems around it doesn't feel like it's going to have the payoff, and so we just kind of like, okay, well, the original vision is ship a great game with lots of things for people to do, and let them kind of experience and have it be a mirror to their own selves, in terms of what they want to be or experience in the game, and not it has to have this and it has to have that. I think other games do that more. They have one thing that they're going for, and I think that that's a very different thing about the sort of Bethesda approach. Get it in, see if it's fun. If it's fun, we'll pay off on it, and if it's not fun, we'll just kind of background you a little bit more.
And the team just has the time and the support to hey, let's just make a soup for a while and see what really pops.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a team that's worked together for years. I mean, there's people who are decades veterans there, and I would say the bulk of the team has worked together for 10 years at least. And that's pretty unusual in the games industry as well. So they're just really good at, oh, you need this, let me give you that. And people kind of push what they want to push, and change things that feel that they really want to kind of take ownership and push forward. So it's very individually driven that way, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Todd and others kind of at the top are evaluating the game constantly and making decisions about where more effort should be put in. So,
I don't know, why do you think that people stick around there for so long? Is it just because it's kind of a remote studio, or do you think it has just a healthy culture, or it's like people there just realize you're not going to get a more hardcore game design experience than just sticking with Bethesda?
I think it's all of those things. I mean, it does. I mean, certainly for people who've been there a long time, I think it's very much a family. You know, it's for them. I mean, I came along. You know, I was Johnny Come Lately, right? I mean, they had already had success with Oblivion, and they were, about to ship Fallout 3, and it's, a lot of people have just been there and worked together for a long time. I mean, I do think that the sort of remoteness doesn't help. It helps at least keep people there, I should say.
Yeah.
So people don't have a lot of places immediately to go necessarily. But, it's not impossible to move around a little bit. But I do think that if you started there and you've been there for a while and you're starting to think about a family, well, now you are kind of rooted here and you want to, spend your time, and spend a decade or more at one place. And they're very lucky to have that opportunity, to be honest, in this industry.
Yeah.
The kind of success the games have had, have really made that a possibility. And that's really wonderful. So,
as someone who reads every comment on our YouTube channel for Game Informer, I think you'd be shocked to know. It's kind of fun. I mean, it's the lowest low of the internet, but also it's always fun to see people going back to old videos, and especially like our Skyrim cover story stuff. It is shocking how many people just worship Todd Howard. It is constant comments on these old tour videos we did at the studio saying like, "Oh God, Howard, I would just want to lick that guy's shoes. Just let me touch him." What do you think that is?
Well, he is just such a gamer. I mean, he really is. I think that's fundamentally the core strength of the studio is that Todd just has a great eye, and he knows what feels good. I mean, he's got tastes, right? He knows what's going to connect with the audience because it connects with him. It's not calculated in any way. It's when what you see is what you get with Todd Howard. He's a geek who loves games, and I think that comes through. I mean, certainly he's a pretty private person. He doesn't do a ton of interviews. They usually just are around when the games come out. So he's not out there every year blogging something, and he doesn't even necessarily show up on the E3 stage every year. It's only, I have this thing that we've been working on, and let's show you.
Yeah.
And other than that, he's kind of out of the public eye, and I think that's also helps in the sense that when he is talking to the public, he knows what we have. I mean, he knows, or what they have, I should say. He knows what the game is now and what they're focusing on, and there's not a lot of empty promises, and his excitement about the things he's excited about definitely comes through. I mean, he is legitimately, every time he shows, like a Dragon Shout or something like that through the Skyrim stuff, he's literally excited about it. I mean, he can't wait to show you because it's so cool to him, the things that we've been, the team was able to pull off. And I think that just shows through, and that makes him very likable and very relatable from that standpoint. He's like a lot of the audience.
Yeah, the longer you work with them, the more you just appreciate that geek passion as the core component there and the core bit of genius, I guess. Yeah, it's even like we went on a Dark Souls 3 cover story trip, and that was the main takeaway from interacting with Miyazaki as much at From Software. Is like, oh, he's just a big old geek. I get it now. Okay, this makes much more sense. That's the main component here.
Yeah, another good example for sure. I mean, that guy has a vision, and he's really into what he does, and the product shows it, and you can feel that in the games.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think about the Switch port of Skyrim? As someone who knows that code well,
I haven't played it. Have no idea.
Yeah.
I won't probably play it. I played the beginning of Skyrim so many hundreds of times. I can't. Like I got Fallout 4 when it came out. I have a code that got me the game, and I started playing it, and I was like, "Yep, can't do it."
Really?
I played this so much, even in its early form. I left at the very end of pre-production, but that introductory part and all the way down through into, I guess, Conquered, all of that was stuff we were working on 2 years before it shipped.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time playing my games anyway because I see a lot of flaws when I play. I see I see my experience of making the game in the game. So, this is a thing that didn't quite pay off like we would have liked, or that's a bug. Many people would not even know that's a bug, but it's a bug, and I have a very hard time looking at that, and it took me 10 years, I think, to be able to go back to Republic Commando and play that.
Yeah, you live streamed it, right?
I did. I put it on YouTube, and ultimately Columbia or Sony or somebody complained that I was using parts of John Williams music for like 10 seconds in the middle of that, and I just took it down because I just don't have the energy to fight this kind of crap. But it was fun to do. I still have the video somewhere on a hard drive downstairs, so it's not a problem. I could probably put it up again and try to bleep it out. I don't know what the heck they would want, but it was very hard to do that. And even then, I mean, at that point, I was sort of had enough distance to be beyond any issues. But in the moments after, it's only been, I say this, and now I feel silly, but it's only been 6 years since Skyrim came out.
It's all fresh.
It's like it's yesterday, man. So yeah, it's really hard for me to separate that from the pure play experience. As much as I loved playing it while it was in development, I played, I want to say 500 hours of Skyrim in that last year before it came out. So I've played a lot of Skyrim, and I've seen just about everything in the game, but it's very hard for me to go back and play anything I've worked on before.
There's just so few people in the world who know what's going on under the hood in like Skyrim specifically. Is that just wild to play and be like, I know why that bug's happening, I know why that bug's happening?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird generally, I think, with things that you make or play. This is one of the things they say about creative work, right? It's never finished. It's just abandoned, and you just try to abandon it at the right time. And when it's as full as it's going to be, you can't overdraft something, right? I mean, there's, in writing, for example, and you probably know this, you write and things like that. So you can re-edit a draft long enough until it becomes flat, and all the energy is now gone from the writing because you've tried to sand down all the edges and make it perfect. And in doing so, you lose some vitality, and some of that vitality is just because the moment has changed, right? The environment in which you're going to release this product or whatever has changed. If you spent 5 years after Skyrim polishing Skyrim to make it completely bug-free or whatever, it would lose a ton. I mean, I don't think it would work at, in the same way that it did when it released, right? And I think finding those moments for any creative thing is a huge deal.
It certainly loses some social media buzz with people posting the hilarious glitches of all time. I mean, that's part of the charm.
Sure, that's true. I love that. I mean, some of them certainly, about, like the giant smashing the ground and having all this huge amount of physics force and like throwing you way up in the air. That's awesome. Why would you change that? I mean, it's so great. I mean, that stuff's fun. Or what happens when you put 1,000 cheese wheels and let them roll down a hill? Like, I don't know, but you know what? I bet it's going to be fun. And if you've got a computer that can do it, by all means, the game's not going to stop you. So that stuff's fun.
But if the team grabbed onto that during development, they'd be like, cheese wheels. That's going to be a main focus of Skyrim. This is where the fun is, you guys.
One of the things is Adam Adamowicz, R.I.P. He was the concept artist for Fallout 3, and I think maybe for Oblivion. It's certainly before my time, and then certainly for Skyrim, and even some of his stuff I think goes into Fallout 4. He was a concept artist, been there a long time, and died during the course of, I believe, Skyrim's development. And anyway, there was a period where he basically with can't remember Ray's last name, but with another concept artist, just like 1 week, or like, we're working on meat this week. We're just working on meat. Meat's going to be important, Todd. And Todd's like, what are you doing? And, they're drawing, mammoth snouts and, different kinds of steaks and I guess the salmon in different forms. And, like, no, it's all meat. This week it's meat. It's all about meat, Todd. Believe me, you'll be happy. You'll be happy with the meat. And Todd's just like, okay, you guys know what you're doing. I'm not going to complain. This is just kind of the magic of how it gets there, I guess. And so that game has a lot of meat.
Really good-looking meat for a reason.
Good-looking meat.
So what's it like to make the transition, I guess, to go back to consulting then and eventually find your way to Fulbright with Tacoma?
It's been really nice. I mean, at the end of a couple of years working on Fallout 4, where I was the overall lead programmer, not just of a subgroup of programming, but all of the programmers. I was exhausted and frankly just kind of burnt out, and had been doing the same thing, sort of leading and managing teams for, I don't know, 10 years or something like that at that point, and I was just kind of done. I was just fried. I was so fried. I can look back on it now and go, oh yeah, that is a picture of a burned out man, a husk. And so I just took some time off. I helped a friend ship a thing. I got to teach at Wabash College.
Cool.
I don't know if you know Michael Abbott. He's a brainy gamer.
Oh, wait.
He used to have a podcast and a blog.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thing in the sort of mid to late aughts, was the brainy gamer and what we called the brainy sphere, which was all the bloggers who kind of tied in with Michael. Anyway, so I've kept in touch with Michael, and we taught a class together at college where he was a professor in game design and development. That was really fun. And so I just kind of had opportunities to kind of pick and choose. And I was lucky in that, Skyrim did very well. Fallout 3 did very well. I was very much loved by Bethesda, and so I felt I had the financial freedom, and I've also kept my cost of living down. I had the freedom to take some time and just chill for a while and figure out what I wanted to do next. So there was a lot of reading and a lot of movies and a lot of games, and yeah, some opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
Ultimately, actually, through the Brainy Sphere, I met Steve Gaynor, because he was one of those guys who was blogging back in 2007 or whatever.
Yeah.
And had a lot of respect, certainly, for Gone Home. I remember I sent them a handwritten letter in the mail, like people used to do in the 1800s, after the game came out, and explained like how I felt about the game and what it brought out in me. And
it's very Gone Home of you to do. Yeah.
How I thought it worked, and why I thought it worked, and I just was very positive on the thing. So it was, we had kind of a connection there, and I had actually talked to them about coming on to work on what would become Tacoma, but that offer to teach and be an artist in residence or whatever for a semester was kind of a unique situation. It was not the sort of thing that I felt like was going to ever come up again. And I just said, you know what, Steve, I love you guys, and I can't wait to see what you're going to play, what you're going to build, rather, and I'll play it. But I need to do this thing because I'll never get a chance to do this thing again. So I went and did that instead. That was great.
And then you eventually came back around and helped finish it off.
Yeah, and then I came back around. They had another programmer who was going through some things of his own that he needed to deal with, and so he had to leave the project. And that was, I guess, last September is when I came on, something like that, and just dove in and started trying to make the game perform better, stream in various parts of the environment. There's lots of other things. Those kind of the big ones that I certainly was responsible for out of the gate.
And so it seemed like from the outside world, at least at some point, I think it was like in a Giant Bomb interview, Steve Gaynor talked about Tacoma 2.0, or kind of like a reboot. Was that a soft thing, or when you came on board, was there kind of like a concrete, like, let's reset some things, let's rebuild the space station?
Oh, no, that happened probably a year before I got there.
Okay.
So I think, you can remember sort of the original concept art that they showed in E3, I don't know, 2014, 15, something like that, was of a very Art Deco, brassy kind of environment.
Yeah.
And I think all of the station had been maybe 0G at that point.
Sounds right, yeah.
Right. And so that was kind of where they started, and I think that's what they rebooted. And I definitely wasn't there for any of that. A lot of the game, so what we had of the game was sort of the initial experience, not the first opening kind of cutscene, but the first interactive bits. You go and you get the hardware, and you go down into personnel, admin, and ops, or whatever it's called down there. And all of that was working and fairly built out when I came on. There was more content to be added, but the main scenes were there. All the play was there. He actually had me play that before I started, in August, I think, of last year. So that was all there. And what they were building out was the other two, we call them wings, but the other two transfers, those two areas, and that was really being built out. And a lot of the story was being worked still. They had a general idea of the path, but actually integrating in all the animation. Noel Welly did the animation, and it's fantastic in the game. It really carries things through. And then Nina Freeman and Tynan Wales did all this sort of design stuff with Steve, and then Carla does all this sort of 2D art and artifacts.
Yeah.
For them to do the story. Hannah Bone was a programmer who was originally intern, but she did most of the gameplay programming, certainly all the interaction with the animation and things like that. I mean, the team is really good, and it was so great to come in and just have a team of people who knew what they were going to do and were executing on it. And just being able to, like, day by day support and make that better in any way that I could. You know, whether that was, it would be great if we could do this thing tools-wise. I mean, just to be able to do a thing more quickly, or looking at the things that were going to lead to, you know, the performance being where it would be.
So launching the game this week, you don't look like a husk of a man. So overall, was it just night and day as far as stress goes compared to?
Because I shaved today, Ben.
You're looking very good. Looking very good.
No, I actually had to put in my phone today, shave. I probably would not have thought of it otherwise. I'm pretty tired. I'm not going to lie. I was up very late last night. I was up very early this morning. When I'm in crunch, you know, and there was crunch, you know, because there was a lot of performance to squeeze out, a lot of issues to kind of work out. And of course, whenever you're dealing with a license holder, you have to go through their certification process. That's its own, you know, thing to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress in all of that. I'm really looking forward tomorrow to flying out to Portland and spending the weekend with the team.
Oh, it's gonna be nice.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little party and celebrate the thing coming out, and then we'll look at what are the odd edge cases that people are running into that we didn't have coverage to test, or, you know, just the ability to when you put something out on a console. Basically, every console is the same. Put something out on the PC. Basically, every PC is different. So you have all you know, people who are like, well, I use this software to map my input from the PlayStation controller, and that's not working. And I'm like, oh my god.
So, I mean, is it too easy just to say that you started out in this endeavor being like, oh, it'd be nice to work on a little game, something a little bit more stress-free, and then it ramped up, and it's like, oh no, it turns out every game project is stressful?
Yeah, no, I never thought it would be stress-free.
Yeah.
I think that, and this goes back to my Starfighter experience, which is, before this, I would say, pretty much my smallest team. That was like 20, 25 people or something like that in the core. But, you know, it's not so much this. The thing that I really benefit from and really love about a small team is, first of all, I can name everybody on the team. So that's really great. Oh, I missed Kate, the 3D artist, who did all the Gone Home 3D art as well. So she's wonderful. And she's on the East Coast with me, so we're often on Slack at the same time in the morning. But hi, Kate. Anyway, the great thing is you can see yourself on the screen when the game comes out. You can see the things that you did. You had a direct impact on the game. And, I mean, as much as I love Skyrim, part of my frustration at that point in my career was I'm at a point in my career where when I might tell a person to go do a thing, but I'm not actually doing that thing that makes it into the screen. You know, I told my physics programmer, my animation programmer, we're going to do this thing where we pair up the animations, you know, like God of War or something like that, and I don't know what we're going to use it for, but we need to have that technology. We should just build it. Here's a design. This is what you would do. Go build it. And Todd came over and like, you got these guys doing this thing. Why are you doing this thing? And I was like, Todd, like, I mean, you know, God of War, they do all the door opening stuff with that. And he's like, oh, right, okay, I got it. You know, and so I see myself at one remove from that. You know, I go and say, okay, I told a person to do that thing, you know, that results in all those kill moves and all that stuff. But I wasn't day-to-day involved, and I don't really take a huge amount of pride in that. I take a pride in the overall product. And mostly for me, the product I made making Skyrim was these, you know, 7 or 8 programmers. You know, that's my product. These people started here, they ended here, they're a tight-knit group, they're really good at what they do, and now they can do more in the next game.
Whereas Tacoma, Tacoma, you look at it, it's like
I can go in and say, oh, the load time at the beginning is not 3.5 minutes. I did that. You know, I can go down these. We go down these transfer shafts, and they take 20 seconds, whatever. I did that. You know, wherever the number is today, but you know, it's you know, when those things used to take forever. And in fact, I found a thing between review copies going out and you know and the final game. You know, it's like I cut another 25 seconds off of that, and that directly impacts people's play experience. And I mean, there's other things like stuff that I did for that, like the sunlight, but mostly the performance of the thing is me. And you know, that's a tangible thing that you can look at and see and feel.
And you get a buzz out of it.
With those sorts of things on Skyrim, but I can't at any point in the game say, oh, this is this much faster because I did it.
So what's it like weighing those different things in your mind then in regards to your future? Do you get such a buzz out of having such a tangible impact that you want to see in a smaller team, or is it like, well, I'm living in this house because of Skyrim. Maybe it'd be nice to go back to a larger team.
I'm not living in this house because of Skyrim. I'm living in this house because of me.
There we go.
LucasArts, I guess. But I mean, I'm talking with Fulbright about what they might do next. I mean, that's so not on anybody's mind yet. So that's not a thing to think about too much. But you know, we should at least talk and see if there's a further relationship we want to pursue. I love them all. I think they're terrific people, and you know, it's great working with them. So it's a huge possibility. And I have had other people who are running small things or about to start small things where I'm like, oh wow, that does sound really interesting, and being on the ground floor of that might be really cool. So I am looking mostly at smaller sorts of things because of that direct impact. And I'm not closing the door on going back and managing a big team someday. I mean, that could even grow out of some of these things. So it's not like it's going to go away. You know, we've been talking for whatever, an hour, and I'm very comfortable talking and working with people. That's not an engineering thing normally. So I just kind of naturally am very comfortable interfacing with creative people. And so I want to do that, and I want to, regardless of where I end up, for me, that's a huge part of the equation is, do I get to talk with smart, creative people every day? And, you know, like I said, programmers are all smart, creative people. They're just smart, creative in kind of this way, you know, and I like talking with the whole, I think that's one of the things that, I mean, the art department, the animation department, and the design department love me at Bethesda because I could talk their language. I would walk over and, like, they have a problem, and we put in a new scripting language, for example, and for Skyrim. We took out the old one, put in a new one. We tried to make it as close as possible. In some ways, the other one, but for performance and other reasons, it had to be pretty different. And I said, look, I know this is a big challenge. It's a big change. We're changing also the animation system and things like that on you. Like, a lot is changing. But I will literally come to your desk and sit with you and work through problems that you have whenever you have them. Because I want this to succeed. And I know that it might take my hand on the till to make that succeed. And so is Jeff Lundeen, who's the guy who actually made that system. He will also come to your desk. He wrote all the documentation that ended up being, you know, what shipped when they put out the creation kit or whatever. You know, there was a ton of scripting system documentation because he had kept all that current and made sure it was up to date so that we could support the designers. And it was the same with, you know, different people on team for different things that they were looking to do. So
yeah, for sure. Well, hey, congratulations on shipping Tacoma, and keep up good work, man.
I hope everybody plays it. It's such a lovely game. There's so many great human moments in it. There are parts of the game that every time I see them, and I haven't gotten tired of playing the game yet, despite, you know, it is not a long game. But there are some great, just touching human moments that I love about it. You know, there's great vocal performances. The story is really terrific, but the details and everything that the team has filled out the world with are just lovely to me, and I just feel so proud to have had a chance to work with them. So
yeah, it's a personal project for you, it feels like, and it's nice that it's such a personal game or an intimate game when you're playing it, that the characters in the game are also so relatable on a small scale.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Well, thanks again for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you sometime.
Sounds good. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody. Then I just nail it. Then I actually do the cool loop the loop, toss it over my shoulder like a Continental Soldier, as they say in Tech.
I've never heard that. No, for real.
Never heard about somebody tossing something
Like
over
a
their shoulder,
Continental
like a Continental Soldier?
I've never heard that.
It's a rhyme from like 1783.
I'm out of the loop.
So I heard that. Do your ears hang low? Do they wobble to and fro?
Right. Can you tie him in a knot? Can you tie him in a bow?
Except,
Throw him over your shoulder like a Continental Soldier.
except, I don't know what that means. The more I think about that, though, I heard it as your ears, but I don't think it's ears. I think it's about your. I think it's a Wang song.
Wait a minute. Cisco's
I'm
Wang
completely
song?
lost now.
You really? But it was like on Lamb Chop and crap.
I think that they were. I think it was originally. I mean, think about it. Like.
I bet it's a
big hang low. Does it wobble too?
I bet it was a
Can
ball
you tie
song.
it in a knot? Can you tie it in a bow?
That was the playground parody that I was familiar with growing up.
Yeah.
I never connected
Can
that.
you throw it over your shoulder like a continental? I mean, like, whoop, that makes way more sense than your ears.
So you think it started as like a military jingle of people talking about their gonads, and then they're like, we have to babify this up because we need that sweet shoulder soldier rhyme.
To be fair,
Our kids
a lot of like rhymes and stuff were, sanitized for general use.
I mean, think about that ring around the rosy.
Right, I was about to go to that. Yeah,
That's true.
That one's about boobs.
no.
Venereal disease.